Hello everyone. So in case you guys are wondering, I'm gonna just say, because I know someone in chat's gonna probably call me out for it. They're like, I bet you were late because you were applying makeup. Yes, that is why I was late. I felt like I wanted to do a different look today. Sometimes I get tired of looking like a fucking dirty nerd who just rolled out of bed, okay? Sometimes I need a little pick-me-up too. So, at least it's earlier than yesterday. And today we're going to cover a little bit of the Eliza Bleu updates, because there are some updates. And we're actually going to go through a related video about a woman who was forced to be a cam girl by her husband. Well, hello. As per usual. Oh wait, I forgot to reset the king of the chat. There we go. As per usual, if you want to contribute to the stream, if you like the streams, consider donating at BrittanyVenti.com. Later this evening, we might play some videos because I haven't done that in a while because of the Eliza Bleu coverage. And I know you guys really like donating videos. Are you being coerced? Yeah, I was coerced into putting on makeup by my viewers, actually. They manipulated me into doing it. Otherwise, I would have showed up on time. Anyway, so let's go through the updates here. So this music is way too, it's like nice, but it's way too chill for what's going on. I need something a little more psychotic, I think. Let's see how this one goes. Okay, so anyway, my account is still locked on Twitter. Let's start off with that, of course. And not only is my account still locked on Twitter, but also Eliza's account is still locked on Twitter, but Eliza Bleu chose to lock her account for attention or something. Or to damage control. Maybe all of the above. Does this sweater make me look morbidly obese? Okay, funny story about this sweater. Everyone's noticing the sweater because, like, I never wear stuff like this. You'll see why. But I am wearing this because it's related to something later. And this sweater is something I got by accident in the mail. So I actually ordered something else like a year ago and they sent me this instead. So no, it's not that I'm a poser, it's that they sent this to me on accident. I did look up Sublime and I actually did like their music though, but I'm not that into them. So I'm just gonna call myself out there, or call out Urban Outfitters for messing up my order. But I use this as a sleeping sweater now. Thank you, JR, for the $16.19. Happy Black History Month. Yes, I am a person of history. Please refer to me and my brothers and sisters as a person of history. We are February Americans. Anyway, if you want to support a black sister working her black ass off this month, you can do so at BrittanyVenti.com. Anyway, so my account's still locked. Eliza's still in lockdown because she's damage controlling / enjoying the attention. So I guess she's pulling a Kardashian, as she puts it. And let's have a little bit of a recap here for those of you who are new. Let's do a little bit of a recap and then we'll get into the other stuff. Okay, so starting off, obviously you guys know that Eliza Bleu got my account locked on Twitter because she lied and said that I posted non-consensual photos of her when they were in fact screenshots from a rap music video she was in that was up for 6 years and had over 500,000 views on World Star Hip Hop. And we later found this out, that not only did it look like she was consenting to it because the whole rap video was about her. It wasn't even a rap video, by the way, because the rapper wasn't listed. It was clearly something to promote her body and herself. We know why now, as we had theorized. Seems like we were pretty close to the truth. And a couple articles had covered it saying that she used to escort And actually not a couple articles, specifically the Daily Beast article on her said that she used to escort and try to get a girl that she was friends with, a girl, into prostitution because she was enjoying it so much, making $500. So I love the eyeshadow. Thank you. It's the one from Mitsuo Market. You know, the Asian market where they have the Asian girl makeup. That works better for my face than Western products. So I do that method. Like, they give you a little tutorial in the back how to use the eyeshadow, and that's what I do. Anyway, so we found out that she did in fact consent to it, not only because common sense that she wanted to be in that video, but we also found several recordings of her admitting that she wanted to be in that World Star video, going as far as to brag about it and how he had a red dragon camera.
So here we are. I'm really happy that the World Star
Eliza blows her nose.
That was...
If she blew her nose, all that poorly blended contour would come off. What would she do then? How will she blind men with her nose then?
So here we are. I'm really happy that the World Star video got released. That was a good piece to the puzzle.
Does that sound like I'm the left and I'm digging things up to you guys? So basically her friends were accusing me of digging things up when she was happy that the World Star video was out there. Eye candy Eliza knows. And she later took down the video and struck it, even though World Star owns the rights to it legally. And she also took down other sources, and she is presumably, we are assuming this based on pattern behavior and the implication from the privacy notice, but she's now trying to take down, presumably Eliza, trying to take down other YouTubers for even sharing or posting anything about her rap music video, rap in quotations. In my opinion, I think it was an escort music video in some way to show her body off. I mean, that was pretty obvious what's in the video, but to sell a product, so to speak. She's like selling herself as a product. That's what I think it was for, based on all of the evidence that we've gathered so far in the past 2 weeks. And we see that she has struck multiple people after lying about it being non-consent. And let's go ahead and take a look at that list of people. So Tree of Logic actually was kind enough to make a list of all the people that were hit by false privacy complaints, presumably by Eliza Bleu, allegedly Eliza Bleu, 99% most likely Eliza Bleu. And how do we know this? Because in the Google email that they send you, they give you timestamps, which we went over in the last stream yesterday, showing what the timestamps were for getting struck down. In Anna, that Star Wars girl case, she got struck for just showing a picture of someone else's tweet showing the thumbnail of the photo, the World Star hip hop photo. It was just a picture of the thumbnail. It didn't even show anything. And she presumably also struck Anna just for that. So it really didn't matter if you showed the video or not. It seems like if you just talk about her, allegedly Eliza Bleu is striking people down through a privacy claim, because obviously it's fair use, so she can't do it through copyright. So what do? Oh, it's a privacy claim. Obviously Eliza Bleu is a trafficking advocate, bullshit artist, we know that now, but she obviously is a public figure, and it is not private. The music video had 500,000 views, and she was bragging about it and how she got the director to get her on the music video, despite the fact that she had less than 100K followers. And we reviewed that recording yesterday as well. But yeah, Tree of Logic, who was on one of the streams on, I think it was Simcast, with us talking about this and telling her about it, she made this list here. And it says the following content creators who were hit by a false privacy complaint by Eliza Bleu. Again, we're assuming it's her. Chrissy Mayer, That Star Wars Girl, Griffcast IRL, Steel Toe, Mersh, That Umbrella Guy, Noctis, Drave OK, Not Radix, Ninjas and Nerds News. Look at that name. It's Black History Month. Happy Black History Month, Ninja. Brittany, Venti, The Quartering, Fair and Balance, Yellow Flash, Lucky Burrito, Legal Mindset, Bully M. Pix Hero, I don't know all these people, Lauren Chen, and Justin is Lost. So this is so far. This was at 8 a.m. today. There might be more, but this is what we have so far for who got the privacy notice allegedly from Eliza Bleu. Again, the timestamps all show Eliza Bleu in some way, shape, or form, so we're assuming it's her. I don't know the exact process yet of filing a privacy complaint on YouTube, so I can't be 100% certain that you need to ID verify, but it seems that way, that there's some sort of identification in order to file that. Otherwise, why wouldn't you get like 100 of those a day? And now because of this, the Quartering had made a video and said that he is thinking about taking, I think, or someone, I think he said that a lawyer, I'm assuming Legal Mindset, who also covered it, will be taking action potentially because, you know, they're lawyers, so it's just free time for them. It's already their occupation. He said something along those lines. So that's what's going on with that. And just a little bit of a recap. Elon Musk unfollowed Eliza after all of this, despite her vigorously thirsting after his big old schling-schlong here. Thank you, Tree, for posting this. The thirst is real. Eliza joined Twitter during the month of December 2019. She's been coming for Elon ever since. Maybe quite literally. Damn, I guess determination and persistence pays off. Also, our new project, anyone knows what she's talking about? This is tweeted 12/29/19. And it's Elon saying, no, I said we should build more tunnels, put trains in them, cars or whatever. But every large city on Earth is plagued by traffic and it gets worse. Multi-level tunnels might solve this, so worth trying. If you have a better solution, please tell us what it is. And then Eliza replies, oh, sorry, let me translate that for you guys. I have a large farm. If you ever need somewhere to work, our new projects with a lot of space, our new projects together in private, please let me know. Progress is not perfection. So Elon Musk unfollowed her despite her efforts to kiss ass, which is one of her favorite moves, along with being manipulative and playing victim. Like if she were a Pokemon, those would be her moves. Like she would be Meowth because she needs the move Payday, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong here, if you guys think she would be a different Pokemon. Let's see. And then, oh my god, I think I was watching Sean Think Before You Sleep too much, because now I'm doing his fucking tick where he goes like, okay, I don't know how many of you are watching his stream. He just started streaming. You guys remember like a year ago I had him on my stream, Think Before You Sleep. And that was actually his first stream ever. And so he started streaming and I was watching it. And every time he pauses, because he's so like serious, he's so like straightforward with everything. So anytime he like deviates from that, it's really funny. He goes like in between lines, like, okay, let's see. Anyway, this is the information I'm very serious and I'm going to tell you about. I don't know. It's just like something about it is funny. And now I'm like saying, let's see, in between lines, because I was like listening to his dream. Anyway, that's my version of is anyway. Everyone has a tick. It's something you can't unhear. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you listen to your favorite content creators and you really pay attention, everyone has their own version of a tick, a filler, if you will. And people do different things. Like one of the YouTubers I watched, his version is like, okay. He's like this gay guy. And he talks about like basically like the nervous system and having a certain mindset. And he basically is like, okay. And it's like, and I could not unhear it. Every other sentence he's like, okay, but it sounds like he's speaking so fluently. So it's about picking the right filler word, I guess. Instead of going you have to go okay or let's see. Like that's a way better filler word. You guys saw that short of me trying to get rid of my habit of saying and me losing my mind over it, having a melty because I said in the middle of it. Anyway, so ANCAP Utopia, Eliza Bleu. What is the title about here? Let's hold on. Where is it? I'm trying to find it. I think I misclicked one of the files. It's all over Twitter, as you guys saw. We played it in yesterday's stream. Here it is.
And do I feel
this is what the title of today's stream is based off of. This clip that's going around. This is a short version of it. We played the longer one yesterday.
and do I feel that some minors are more equipped to engage in sexual activity with adults than others? Yes. And do I feel?
So Eliza Bleu, words out of her own mouth, feels that children can be more capable of consenting to sex with adults than some other adults. And I went on a whole rant about that yesterday, that children are still children regardless of how mature you think they are. You can't bypass time, and it's very valuable. So that is what's going around right now. And she went on to talk about an ANCAP utopia, and that would be her version of an ANCAP utopia, is what we just saw. And I went around on Twitter looking through the hashtag, which is a little harder because, you know, I'm still locked on Twitter. And you can see, I assume this is Yellow Flash's account because I think his main one is still locked on Twitter. That's what I'm assuming here. The only news outlets, tell me if I'm wrong about that, by the way. The only news outlets covering Eliza Blue's situation are left-leaning. The right are completely ignoring it. Who is the right-wing figure protecting her? Somebody big in the political right is backing her. That's a fact. And he's referring to the Daily Beast and a few others covering it. I know Post Millennial covered it. Red State, I think it's called, they took theirs down. So it is really strange that certain individuals or entities are not reporting on it, despite it being very relevant news, especially to their political sphere of speaking on freedom of speech. And it's continuing now, even though this has been trending for 2 weeks now. It is incredible. I've never seen something like this where people on the right refuse to cover it despite it being a trending topic for 2 weeks. Usually the grift is pretty strong, you know? Both sides grift, but in terms of that perfect juicy steak to bite into to showcase censorship, they're not biting into it. It's like they're being choked and held back from doing it. So everyone's noticing, and it's very strange. Thank you for the 1,000 huffies, Nomi. Genuinely beyond me why she's protected so much, allowed to run amok to abuse people the way she is. Yeah, exactly. She must have serious blackmail on people. Yeah, that's the current theory. Atreus 499 super chat. Hey Brittany, one of my subs sent me here because apparently we're both Eliza Bleu survivors. Yeah, we're all being made into Eliza Bleu victims. We can't let her do that. We can't let her get away with that. And then Deranged Lunatic $5. Brittany, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling a little bit dizzy, to be honest. My stomach pain, it went all the way through the night, by the way. I had an allergic reaction midstream yesterday, and I had really bad stomach pain. Something was in the Dove chocolate that I guess I never ate that many at once because usually I only have a couple pieces, and I was really hungry. So then I ate it, and then I had these like chronic stomach pains all through the night, and I feel better there now, but I don't know, for some reason I feel a little bit dizzy right now. Oh yeah, I hope you're feeling better to be on FNT next week. I don't know when I'm going on FNT. It might be soon. I talked to them about it. Maybe you will have good news as far as Twitter goes next week. That would be a great early birthday present. Yeah, what a birthday present that would be. My birthday's coming up, for those of you who don't know, on this glorious Black History Month. I am a true February American, a true person of history, because my black ass was born on February 12th, which is also Abraham Lincoln's birthday. So, he freed the slaves. Wait, I'm not going to drink out of this water bottle. That's really ghetto. Keep your ghetto at home, okay? That's not how I'm celebrating this Black History Month. $772 Hustla $5. Oh wait, that's from yesterday. Okay, cool. I'm caught up on the super chats. Oh, Big Fat Baby Lex just donated $2 through super chat, donating so that Brittany notices me. And it only took $2. Thank you. So, anyway. The coverage has been kind of thin for certain media outlets and individuals. And something else fun, a few funny things actually came out of this that I wanted to pull up. So this is Think Before You Sleep's Twitter, and he said, this is Eliza Bleu on Liberty lockdown. Everyone was so focused on the Predator stuff that they didn't notice that on the left, Eliza appears to have a router that is capable of handling Wi-Fi. Miss, I can't afford Wi-Fi. Over the course of 2 years, she can't afford Wi-Fi, even through several fundraisers she did, including to go on vacation. She couldn't get Wi-Fi, but clearly there's a router right there. So everything is just BS, as Quartering said. That comes out of her mouth. And someone on Twitter pointed this out. We actually did go over this yesterday. Perhaps they did not catch my stream. And I'm not saying that to be narcissistic. I'm saying that because this whole thing happened because she got my account locked on Twitter. So I would imagine like people would come here for the origins of it. But how come all the cretins and crawdaddies hand-wringing over Eliza Bleu files haven't bothered to investigate Eliza Bleu's 2021 meeting with Jack, which is the former CEO of Twitter, to discuss the same anti-porn trafficking AI nonsense which she successfully roped Elon Musk, which we brought up in yesterday's stream. So apparently a lot of people aren't talking about that, or the implications of that. It just shows that she's further embedded in Twitter's internal system, and it's how she was able to abuse that system that was made to help victims, which she abused for herself and wasted those resources. And we're seeing now how she got there. It's because she knows a lot of people. That's all she's about. She talks about it all the time. Like, I know this person, I know that person. I can't wait to work with Ye. Which was so funny. She used Jesus and Kanye to deflect for an entire day about this situation. From that Umbrella Guy's Twitter, Eliza Bleu used Elon Musk, Kanye West, and Jesus as a deflection today, all in the same hour. Wow, someone's feeling the heat. And we went over some of these yesterday. It was actually within minutes with the Yay and the Christ one. It was like 8 minutes apart when I checked it. Talking about she loves Jesus and then she can't wait to collaborate with Ye. I don't know, maybe it's because Ye is a Christian, that was line of thinking. Because without that context, it kind of just looks like she used something to deflect and then she's like, I can't wait to grift more. Lonefish Gaming $4.99 super chat. Brittany, do you think Jeremy talking to half Asian Bill Richmond today will be successful and cause a class action lawsuit against her? I think that everybody should band together. And actually, I encourage anybody who's been affected by this directly, who wants to, especially like content creators, because obviously we're the ones getting the privacy notices and such. I encourage everyone to get together and contact me about it. Let's get together and start getting our juices flowing, because this can't continue. This can't go on. So my website's brittanyventi.com. You guys can email me through there. Lonefish Gaming, thank you though. Atreus $4.99 super chat. I delisted my video because I don't want no smoke. LOL. But I put it back up. My video was spicy. Well, what was in it? S'more $2. Hi Brit in chat. Nice ghetto sweater. This is not ghetto. Okay, this is literally what all the blacks wear during Black History Month. Citation myself being black. Are you finna try my black ass? are you finna find out how black I can be on this Black History Month? Don't make me play Eliza Blue's Ebonics for y'all. I'll sick Eliza Bleu on your ass. Cassius Cleo, $5 super chat. Donating for great content. Also, so chat notices me. You're all beautiful, chat. See, that's where the real attention whoring comes in. It's one thing, it's like, oh, I want the streamer to notice me. And then there's the other kind of person where it's like, I want the chat to notice me. I want to show my ass. I'm caught up on the super chats and donations. And as we covered yesterday, or was it the previous stream, Eliza is deleting a lot of her tweets, and we were wondering, you know, which tweets is she deleting? And it seems like we have somewhat of an answer for that over here that I found. So Cucy's fiance Frank tweets, whoa, can anyone confirm she deleted the Humanity House tweets? If it's true, it means we nailed her at that. Holy shit. So this tweet says she deleted her Humanity House tweets, although she took money for it, claimed she was opening a safe house for victims, presumably on her family's farm of 500 something acres. Now it doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know if this is because she locked her account. I'm assuming this person does have access to her account, so she was able to search it. But that's what people are saying. She's deleting all of those tweets. Survivor, mugshot, abuser. Wait, is the word abuser here? No. But that's what people are saying. I can't check because I'm locked, obviously, and also she locked her account and I can't access that. So we would need more people who have access to her account to verify that further. But that's what is being said right now, is that she's deleting her tweets about her safe house that she was supposed to have for her trafficking victims, which she apparently also tries to use to on Elon's schlong, as you can see here. It's like, oh yeah, the safe house, it's totally for trafficked victims, and she's just using it as a fuck home. That's what I think. I don't know if she's actually using it for that, but that's what it seems like to me. She wants to use it as a Shake Shack as opposed to a survivor house. Do what again? This? That's what she's doing to Elon. But she's like, no, it's for the survivors, though. Oh, Eliza. Exactly, Uncog. And we have an update on Ella Irwin. If you guys remember, Ella Irwin is the Trust and Safety Twitter staff that helped Eliza Bleu in the sense of she kind of supported her by posting these vague tweets about the situation and saying that, oh yeah, well, Ella Irwin replied to someone who was asking about me getting locked, and she said, well, individuals get locked if they have the proper paperwork filed against them and they post non-consensual things. It's like, so you're saying it's non-consensual? It's clearly not. We've proved it at the beginning of the stream already. We know Eliza approved of it, and the clout chasing goblin herself, her way to success, okay? And now she wants to pretend she didn't, and it was non-consensual. So the same Twitter Trust and Safety staff, the head of Twitter Trust and Safety, Ella Irwin, who responded to that about the situation, which you never even see Twitter staff respond to situations. Then later she backpedaled and said, oh, we can't respond about specific cases. It's like, but you just did. So there's an update for that. Ella G. Irwin on Twitter helped release the Twitter files, but cannot comment when it comes to why a bunch of people are being suspended after criticizing notorious grifter Eliza Bleu due to a vague and unspecified legal or criminal case. What is going on here? So yeah, that is very interesting how they can't comment. So as you can see here, doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, I'm going to help with the Twitter files and expose the censorship on Twitter, but then I'm going to be Eliza Blue's personal white knight. Transparency is key, by the way. Transparency means slinging monkey dung on everyone else while doing nothing better than anyone else. Yeah, Elon's policy on transparency is clearly not being honored right now. And I really wish it were. I really wish that my Twitter account were unlocked right now. I absolutely would post my own Eliza Blue's file. But hey, maybe it'll be a birthday gift. Come on, Elon. It's my birthday coming up. You gonna do that to a sister on Black History Month? Is lock my black ass up? Are you for real? Are you faux show? BM, thank you for the $50. Do I have permission as a fellow February American? Never mind, forget I asked. Happy Friday, Brittany, Bimbo Power. Thank you. Zednix, $10 super chat. You really need to talk to Robert Barnes on stream. He has a wealth of information and wisdom you can learn from him. He's one of the good ones. Lots of insight. Please talk to him, love. Yeah. How am I supposed to do that? I'm locked on Twitter. I can't DM anyone. How am I supposed to do that? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if I could have people on my show? You know, my job? Wouldn't that be awesome? Do you see how annoying it is? So yes, it actually does affect my job that she got my Twitter account locked. Kevin Neff, $10 super chat. Has anyone theorized that maybe Eliza made those music videos during her call girl phase to create a pseudo-famous mystique that allow her to charge more for wealthier clientele? Yeah, that's basically what we were saying as a theory. That's basically what we were getting at these past few streams. We theorized it for quite some time now. Rin Wesley, so you're on the money. Rin Wesley, $5 super chat. I can't believe Elon would do this to you, a fellow African American. I know, it's like some black on black crime going on Twitter. I thought we were all about this transparency on Twitter, but instead we have nothing but blackness going on. I'm just in the dark with my account locked, Elon. My birthday is coming up on Abraham Lincoln's birthday during Black History Month. You're not going to do this to a sister, are you? $20 super chat from Joshua R. Doyne. Appreciate your work and your colleagues are doing here. It's important to expose people that are abusing power on these social platforms for no other reason other than their connections. This suppresses speech. Andy P, $5 super chat. 2% about the censorship, 98% about lies. I think everyone involved is losing focus. It's about censorship, and it's also about the fact that she used survivors to... She ran off of their backs to jump up on the pedestal. That's also something we should bring awareness to. I'm getting really light sensitive, so I'm going to put on my glasses. We're back to nerd mode. I'm a nerd again. Dan Holland, £5. Since when did black people listen to ska punk? I thought that was leftist white people. Okay, but it looks hip-hoppin' and cool. This is swagalicious. What I have on is pure swag. I'm swagged out right now during this Black History Month. $2 super chat from Forster Green. Want to hear a pickup line I come up with? I want to, instead of hear a pickup line you come up with, I want you to spell here correctly. That's what I want to hear. Listen, if I get unlocked from Twitter, I'll give everyone an N-word pass. So, basically, to summarize it, Eliza Bleu is still trying to cover her ass. She's still out here lying, still grifting. People are getting more angry. More lies are being exposed. And honestly, it's really embarrassing for her. This is really embarrassing. And one last thing I want to show about the Eliza thing. This had me cracking up. I was watching Quartering's video, and he's showing Think Before You Sleep's tweet, Sean. And he said, this is Eliza Bleu about the Wi-Fi thing we showed earlier. That she's like, I don't have Wi-Fi, but she clearly has a router right there. And then Aiden Paladin comments under it, her poor internet is being trafficked too. That cracked me up. So after this whole ordeal, I wanted to go through a video of actual trafficking, because we seem to have lost the definition of trafficking because of Eliza Bleu. And now people aren't going to really be open to understanding a lot of the cases of trafficking, which are through coercion and manipulation. A large percent of trafficking actually is through that, which is how a lot of prostitutes are involved in getting trafficked. Because, you know, a lot of the time they'll use the lover boy method, as we saw with Andrew Tate. He tried using that tactic, and we saw that on his website. And what that is basically someone, a boyfriend pretends to, it could happen the other way around too, but just in the example, not that women can't traffic, as we saw the potential with Eliza there. Basically, let's say you're a girl, you get a boyfriend, he's like, oh baby, I love you, blah blah. Maybe a month passes, and he's like, anyway, so how about you sell your ass on camera? But they don't do it that directly. They're kind of like, oh, you know, it'd be hot and you would make so much money, and they will try to make you go on camera. So that's like the lightest form of it, is like making them fall in love with you. And then, you know, now that they're in love with you, now they're going to try to convince you to be on camera. Now they're going to manipulate you into doing it, and using manipulation tactics. And Andrew Tate is fatherless. Yeah. And the worst part is he glorifies it. He's like, my dad hopped in and out because my mom was nagging him. It's like, you're really that's a weird flex. You're flexing that your dad wasn't involved in your life. You're like allegedly CIA agent dad or whatever. It's weird. Anyway, so when it comes to trafficking, the loverboy method is an actual method that traffickers use. They make the victims who are susceptible because they come from bad homes, homes that they're not getting the love they need. They're not getting taught the things they need to be taught in order to avoid people like this. And oftentimes they're very young. And especially if you're underage, under 18, it's automatically considered trafficking because CP is not legal. And that also goes for prostitution, and it goes for the filming of prostitution as well. If you're under 18, you can't do that. So they try to, you know, groom them. A lot of the time they'll start from before they're 18, and then sometimes right after they turn 18, they're like, okay, it's legal now. So now I'm going to manipulate you into selling your ass on camera, ruining your life. And you're going to do it because you love me. And that is a real thing. And this is something I've spoken on for a while, but this is an actual case of that. And it's a more extreme case, actually. So this is a video I found through the YouTube algorithm, and it happened to come up during this whole ordeal. I watched it maybe like a week ago, and I've been wanting to talk about it, but I couldn't really get into it because I was busy with the Eliza Bleu coverage. But this is it's titled Trafficked by Her Husband, from a podcast called We're All Insane. I looked through her channel a little bit. So the podcast host here, she is on OnlyFans, just a disclaimer. And she said she started this because OnlyFans made her feel like she had no purpose, and it was putting her in a little bit of a mental rut, to put it lightly. And she interviews this trafficking victim for 2 hours, and she's very well spoken, very concise in her points, unlike Eliza Bleu. And we're going to go ahead and go through some of the timeline and highlights to see what an actual trafficking victim would look and sound like. Now, do I have 100% documentation and proof? Did I like go detective mode and check every single detail of this girl's story? No, I did not. I did not have time to do that. But from what I did listen to the story, I felt it was pretty convincing. It had all the details. She had everything on her timeline right there. She had every detail. She hardly even pause to say, she's very well spoken and very specific, and really paints a picture for how you can get trafficked by someone you love. And she actually ended up with a kid in the situation. So that was really tragic to hear that a kid's now going to have to grow up in a single parent household because of this situation. And it goes to show it could happen to anyone. Literally, someone you love could trap you, right? Because men always are scared of getting baby trapped, right? But the other way around happens too. In her case, he did it to her by lying and saying that his sperm didn't work or something because he was in the military, so it got injured. But he lied, according to her, and just said that so he could, burst inside of her so that she would get pregnant, so that she feels like she can't escape. And now he has a lot of leverage on her in order to trap her there. And that's where the coercion and extortion come in terms of the trafficking aspect. So let's hear her talk a little bit. So she basically explains over here, pretty much from the start, that her dad was in the military and how that plays into the story, because her husband's also in the military.
And growing up with an ex-military man in the late 90s in Wyoming, let me tell you, that's a trip.
Is it?
It is an incredible trip. My parents, before I was born, decided to buy a bar, restaurant, hotel, bed and breakfast, and gymnasium in Wyoming, right at the foot of the mountains.
Like all separate things? It was
like pretty much a resort.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so
sounds like somewhere I need to go.
It's a really cool, beautiful area. I think the town literally has 52 people still.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was very, very.
So you can see she comes from a small town. She lived on a farm. She goes into how she had to wake up and milk the cow every day, and basically she talks about how her parents divorced, and that's why she was living with her dad on the farm.
Sister's father, and she's an incredible woman. When I first moved in with her, she was working 3 jobs as a single mom, trying to just pay the bills for all 3 of us kids. And then she ended up going back to school for psychology, and she got her master's degree and is currently a substance abuse psychologist for the prison systems.
Wow.
Yeah.
So her mom actually is pretty well educated, and this still happened to her. I just want to point that out really quick. Her mom has pretty good credentials, so that makes this case even more interesting.
Yeah, she's an amazing lady. Mm-hmm. So it was really nice being able to live with my mom for a while and have like a normal life right. I wouldn't say childhood because I was a teenager at that point.
So she moves into her mom's place. She used to live with her dad on the farm. She moves into her mom's place. It's an actual city type of area, so she's able to actually have a normal life, not having to milk cows. Her mom makes her breakfast, a normal kind of life, and she has a little bit of culture shock. And then later on she joins martial arts, and that's where the story gets started, and how she found her husband who trafficked her.
And that around my birthday, I started doing mixed martial arts. I got into a local gym that did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and I freaking loved it. I was there every day for multiple classes that they were finally like, okay, kid.
Too much.
No, they're like, since you're here so much, if you start cleaning the mats at the end of the night, we'll take 25% off of your dues. And I was like, oh.
From what I understand, that's actually pretty common in martial arts, is we'll teach you in exchange for your labor. But I just want to make a quick correction about earlier. Tree tweeted the list of accounts that got privacy complaints allegedly from Eliza Bleu. And someone just sent me a correction saying that Lauren Chen didn't receive one. So that's actually interesting to know about the Eliza Bleu situation of her lying about non-consent, and then if we talk about it, we get privacy complaints. So seems like Lauren Chen did not get one. So that's very interesting. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because she's a bigger channel. She doesn't want to mess with her. I don't know. because Anna didn't show the video.
Fuck yeah.
And
Like,
I'm gonna join
total
another
Rocky
5
moment.
classes.
Yeah, total Rocky moment, right? I'm like, yes, I will clean every inch of this gym. Just let me train and like learn how to choke people out. It was great. So I continued training and I was getting really good at it. I was almost to my blue belt in
You guys
Brazilian
like how I'm in the
Jiu-Jitsu,
middle of this?
really good at Muay Thai. And I even progressed to the point where I was teaching or helping teach the kids classes and then assisting in the adult classes.
So she's working at the dojo now. She's in a new environment. She doesn't have the same stability as she did when she's in the place she grew up in. So that's also a factor. She has a little bit less of a support system. Sure, she has her mom who has some good qualifications, but it's still a new environment and she still has culture shock. So it made her very vulnerable to what was happening. And she is 17 around this time, I believe. So she's 15 when she moves, and then 17 around when the incident happens, when she meets her future husband who trafficked her.
And it started that Ian and I just were rolling partners a lot. So we are like literally sitting on each other, choking each other out. Like looking at it in hindsight as a grown woman at almost 30, thinking about like a literal high schooler, like rolling with grown adults. That honestly gives me the ick now. I'm like, why did anybody allow that? Oh, because I was the only female in the academy and there are a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
So I was, going to high school. I would come and train at night. I'd train on the weekends. And I started talking to Ian more. I started rolling and training with Ian more. And then
So Ian is in his 30s, for context.
my junior year ended. I went up to North Dakota for the summer for a little bit, just to see my dad and all that. And I came back right before my senior year of high school. And Ian and I started really, really talking. Pretty much like dating. And I was just over the moon, this grown adult who was ex-military, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, like highly decorated veteran, it hurts me to say this now, but I found him very attractive back then.
And he's similar to her dad in a lot of ways, which is that she lived by a bar at her dad's place. And she goes into this at the beginning that people would come into the bar and they would accidentally enter her space because she lived right next to it, and they thought like, oh, this is the bathroom. She's like, no, the bathroom's next door. And earlier in the podcast she goes into how she alludes that sexual abuse happened as well, which would also make someone vulnerable. She said that something had happened. She didn't really go into it, but she said something bad happened while she was living at her dad's place on the farm next to the bar. And that's how she grew up, being around people who drink a lot, which is a key detail too. And her dad's also a veteran too.
He was older,
just
muscular,
like this guy.
tattooed, and I was just like on top of the world. Because for me, growing up the way I did with my dad and stepmom, they had a 22-year age gap. And they got married like right around the time my stepmom was 18 and my dad was 40. So all those normal alarm bells that should have been going off in like any normal person's head weren't going off.
They just weren't there.
They weren't there because that was normal. That's how I grew up, with that large age gap. I mean, I was 7 and my stepmom was 18 when she married my dad.
Yeah.
We have barely 10 years between us, which is weird.
So that is how she got into that situation where she thought, oh, it's normal if I'm 16, 17, and this man is in his 30s and he's trying to enact a relationship with me. And she didn't have a good frame of reference. And I understand where she's coming from, because I also was in abusive relationships because I didn't have a good frame of reference. In my situation, I was orphaned at 16. My mom was battling cancer. She's the one who raised me. My dad wasn't really that involved in my life, and he had issues and severe issues. So it wasn't really safe for him to be involved in my life that much. And so my mom, from when I was 10, 11 years old, she got diagnosed with cancer, and it was like stage 4. And then later on she recovered. She went through chemotherapy, she went through radiation, she did the whole thing. She had a double mastectomy and she almost beat it, but then it came back. And so through these teenage years, for a lot of it, I had to deal with her going through chemo. And it's really hard when she's by herself. Nobody's helping her except for me, who's like 10, 11 years old. And I don't really fully understand how bad the situation is, and she's very weak, and I have to, do things for her, like, give her water, turn the lights off and on. I can't really go out. I'm not able to really socialize. At one point, she had to get somebody else to drive me to school because she was ill. So that was my situation. I didn't get to have that parenting to teach me how to have a good frame of reference in dating and what men to look for, especially given how my dad was. He was very, from what I understand, violent and abusive to my mom. And I personally did not like him. So I did not, from a young age, I did not want him around, because I saw, it wasn't because, your mother's brainwashing. I understand that's something that happens. And of course she's biased considering he abused her. But it was because I saw how he would use me to get to her, even at a young age. And I saw how he interacted with me, and I didn't like it. So that was my frame of reference for men. So I completely understand where she's coming from in saying that that is what led her down this bad path of choosing bad men. And she also says at some point in the podcast about how these men, they're like sharks. They can smell it when you're vulnerable and you come from a bad home and you don't have that discernment because you're not taught it. They see that and then they go and attack. And that's how they pick their victims. It's a combination between you not picking the right men and also those men going after you because they see you as prey. Because you don't have a dad around to say, I'll beat your ass if you fuck with my daughter. You don't have that around, right? In my case. And I didn't have a frame of reference for like what a good boyfriend or partner should be. So I went through a lot of really horrific things in my early relationships for years. So I really do understand where she's coming from. Frame of reference is something so important for children, which is why we want two-parent households, because when you don't have that, now you have no frame of reference for how each of the genders should behave toward one another. And it's very detrimental to raising a child and how they end up, especially if the parent isn't addressing some of those things. In my case, my mom tried her best to be both parents, but you can only do so much. So very important detail. This is how you become an abuse victim, is circumstances like that, and they target you. And when I say abusive on my end, by the way, I just want to clarify, I was in physically abusive relationships. I was physically abused by multiple partners for years that I lived with. So that's how bad it can get if you aren't raised properly. If you have no frame of reference, you will pick people like that. And I know people who don't get it, who maybe have had fortunate lives and better homes and parents to raise them, would think, why wouldn't you just leave? It's because you don't know that that's not normal. I literally didn't know that was normal. I got unlucky. I got 2 abusive relationships in a row. So I literally had no frame of reference. So that's kind of the mindset you're in when you're in that situation. You may think it's common sense, but when you have a frame of reference that's telling you otherwise, you will second guess that or think that you need to put up with it.
Back to Colorado after visiting my dad for the summer in North Dakota, and Ian and I were talking, and that's when things, and mind you, I am a minor, I am like not 18, I'm still a legal child. He starts enacting a sexual relationship, and I can even remember it, and I hate this because I was not a popular person in high school. I was significantly heavier than I am now. Like if you look at pictures of myself from 15, 16, it looks like I kind of ate myself.
Mm-hmm. So that means he is purely going after her, not even for the aspect of like, because you'll hear a lot of men say, oh, but like they're hot or something, which is obviously gross. Cause like, it's kind of like, I'll put it like this. If you look at like a 15-year-old and you're like, that's hot, that's really fucking gross. I'm going to explain why. You would know better. You would know what a 15-year-old's like. Everyone's been 15 if you're an adult. You know what the mindset is. You know how they act. Why would you, as a full-grown adult, you're in your 30s or onward, your 20s, fucking with 15-year-olds, you know how they are. You know how immature they are. You have nothing in common with them. Why would you want to be with them? It doesn't make sense. So it's kind of like finding a 15-year-old attractive after finding out they're 15 is the same energy as being attracted to a woman after you find out she has a dick and you claim to be a straight man. There's just something very off about that. So once you know that information, that attraction should not be there, because you know what being a teenager entails mentally, and you know what that actually would be like to deal with, just like how you would know what it would be like to deal with a dick in your mouth if you're a straight guy. Like, some guys like that. Some guys want trans women, okay? But I'm talking about you're claiming to be a straight guy and you're still like, damn, after you find out they have a dick, something's a little, that's not straight. Something's a little off there. So just in the same vein of like, oh, I'm not a predator. It's like, but you knew that they were underage and you're still like, something's a little off there, if that's truly how you feel.
I never really had boyfriends, had never been asked out on dates. So I was just, like, oh my gosh, somebody likes me.
Right.
Not seeing all the ick that was there. And I was a couple weeks into my senior year. My mom and the academy both finally caught on. Some of my colleagues and peer coaches saw Ian and I out somewhere, and they threw a fucking fit about it.
Really?
Rightly so, because at the time he was 15 years my senior. So he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
I'm literally a child in high school.
Right. You're still 16 at this point, right?
I'm 17 now.
17, okay.
Yep. So
Notice how she's able to keep her dates in line, guys. Unlike somebody who's unable to keep her age and her timelines correct. Notice how when she's able to look back and she's able to recall specific details about what happened to her. Notice how she went to therapy. And she says in the podcast she went to therapy, and that's how she's able to talk about this, by the way. She almost gets through the entire thing without crying. Just perfectly talking about it. Little to no interruptions. She's mostly listening, the host. And she's just able to very eloquently lay out the details of the story and what happened in a very concise manner. And she has her timelines on point. Why is it that Eliza Bleu can't do that? Why is it that Eliza Bleu is unable to do this? This woman does she go around yelling she's a survivor advocate like Eliza? Even if she were a survivor advocate, I'm sure she doesn't yell at the top of her lungs to the extent Eliza does, and literally any tweet she can that fucking clout goblin, any fucking huff that she can get of fame, like an addict, just have to sniff it, have to inhale it, have to consume it, and have it consume her. The clout goblin will be consumed by the clout. She can't do it. She can't do this. She cannot tell her timeline like this. She's too busy getting high on the fumes of clout and grifting because she is a clout goblin.
Over the winter, I had turned 17, so I'm 17-year-old senior. I will be turning 18 in January. What was that, 9 months from then?
She's even able to recall the months, guys. The months. But Eliza can't even get the years right in her timeline? Okay.
So, yeah, I guess...
So you kind of kept it from, your parents that you were seeing him.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
So her dojo catches her. Or somebody catches her. And she's having relations with a guy who is in his 30s. That's where we're at right now. Okay, thank you, Spectral. Hi, BJ Cumby. All right, where were we?
Totally quiet.
I knew enough. I didn't have the ick factor, but I just knew due to the age gap, my mom wouldn't be happy.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, I was definitely going behind her back. I would...
So she, on her mom's side, her mom who actually has credentials, right? Who's actually well educated in what she does, from what it seems, based on her description of her, is not okay with it. She knew her mom wouldn't be okay with it. She knows something's up, right? But her bad frame of reference from her dad is clouding her judgment, which is why she, as a child, because children are unable to consent because they are not mentally capable of consenting to fucking adults, meaning like over a 3-year age gap. That's why she's having this conflict. She's conflicted on what's right and what's wrong, because one frame of reference, the mom is showing her, yeah, that's not the right thing to do, this is bad for you. But her other frame of reference, who she grew up with, the dad, until she was 15, is saying the exact opposite and is just like this guy. She's going after someone that reminds her of her dad.
Like, and he knew about, like, Ian knew about all of it. He knew that I wasn't telling my parents. He knew that I was sneaking around to see him. He knew that I would be, like, ditching high school class to go.
Oh, but you know what, guys? You know what? This would be okay, though, in Eliza's ANCAP utopia, as we learned earlier.
Go meet him and have sex.
So another difference between her and somebody who actually speaks up on being a survivor of trafficking.
Relations. Mm-hmm. He's a 30-year-old man, you know? And, like, it's hard now, it seems. 10 years later, because it's just like, oh, honey. Like, looking back on my younger self, like, I'm just like, oh, my God, no, you know? Right. So I don't remember exactly where we were in Castle Rock, but one of my coaches saw us, threw a big fit, rightfully so, called my mom, let her know, like, pretty much said that one of us wasn't allowed to be at the academy anymore. Like, it was a big deal. Wow. And for me, that was like, my home. I was damn near there more than I was at home. I'd spent well over a year training.
And you know what's funny about this story?
Almost every single day, multiple classes a day. I was supposed to be having a cage fight, you know, that coming.
She's supposed to do all these things in her youth. You know what's funny, though? In this story, this woman is 17 when she gets trafficked by her husband, when the grooming starts. The husband, who's her boyfriend at this point in the story, who's having sexual relations with her behind everyone's back, like a dirty little fucking toad that he is. He is in his 30s. And that reminds me of what we covered in the last stream about Eliza and that 17-year-old and her spending time with the 17-year-old and lingering around that high school. And he said he had an amazing night with her, and there were some implications there because he was like, the beautiful Eliza, I spent the night with her and had a magical night. And it's like, okay, that's a little weird with the implications, and she's in her 30s when she had interactions with this Asperger's kid, literally has Asperger's, who's 17. Like, can a 17-year-old with Asperger's consent, in theory, to, like, morally, can they consent to somebody in their 30s? I think that's way too large of a gap. I think that is so prone to manipulation. It's like, why would the 30-year-old be with the 17-year-old, in theory? What interest do they have in them? The interest they have in them is the fact that they're 17. A lot of the time. It's the fact that they are easy to manipulate. They don't have things in common. It's just like, what can I get from this person? How can I use them for my pleasure? That's kind of the mindset a 30-year-old, a 31, 32-year-old would be coming from, fucking around with a 17-year-old. Again, we don't have proof that Eliza did this to that 17-year-old. We went over the evidence of why we're talking about this yesterday, which was basically the Instagram post from the 17-year-old with the Asperger's and what he said about her and her being like in her 30s. And it looked very suspect. We don't have confirmation. We don't have proof, but it did look very suspect. So, and again, I already talked about this yesterday. I don't give a shit about your magic soil. So everyone who's here ready to be like, but Brittany, don't you know in some states, I don't give a fuck about your magic soil. Shut up. Nobody here, nobody in their right fucking mind is like, oh my God, the law dictates my reality. It dictates my morals. No, it doesn't. It doesn't dictate your fucking morals. It just means what you're going to get prosecuted for or not relative to that state. Federally, it's 18. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear any of that magic soil bullshit in this stream. We went over this yesterday. Like, no, seriously, there's something, like, very creepy about people who do that, who are like, but in this is literally what predators do. They do these little arguments to try to snowball it. It's like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to dip my toe in the water, then I'm going to dip my foot in the water, then I'm going to put my whole fucking leg under the water. They're like, oh, but, like, actually, it's morally correct because one of the states, Hawaii, says that the age of consent is like 14. So actually, a 14-year-old with a 30-year-old, is it really that bad? And it's like, yes, it is actually. I don't give a fuck what the law says in that regard. It doesn't make it more right. It doesn't make it morally correct. And like I said, I don't think children should be fucking anyway. Fucking is going to cause you to have babies. That's not something a child should have to deal with, nor should they have to deal with the decision of keeping it or not. That's really messed up. So in general, I don't think children should be fucking, but I'm not saying that teenage children should be thrown in jail like it's within 3 years and they have intercourse, but I still don't think it should be happening. But obviously, a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old having sex is very different from, even though every year counts at that point in terms of maturity, is very different from a 17-year-old and a 32-year-old having sex. They're two very different things. And I don't give a shit what soil you're on. It's still creepy. Anyway, continuing. But no, we're in Hawaii, so it's
winter,
fine. Shut up.
So it was like absolutely devastating. So not only did like the can of worms get blown open at the academy, but then the one coach called my mom and let her know. Again, rightfully fucking so. So my mom freaks out, and it's like this whole huge throwdown. And my mom's in the right.
Some of you don't know what the fuck consent
I feel so bad for
means,
this woman because she was in the right every moment of this. And I was a 17-year-old dumbass teenager who thought I knew everything, who thought I was adult, who thought he was a good guy, who thought. Well, my mom, being correct, was like, Alexandra, what man in their right mind who is in their 30s wants to have anything to do with a high school child?
Yeah.
And of course I was like, no, you don't understand. We're in love.
Yeah.
You know, the just horrific trope of all of that. So what ended up happening?
I did the same thing. My first relationship, I had something similar. It wasn't as egregious of an age gap as her, but I did the same thing. My mom, she tried to, for the time that she was alive for when I was dating, she passed when I was 16, a month after my birthday. She tried to sway me away from dating the person I was dating. And it was because she didn't like him, but also she was like, this is too large of an age gap. He turned 18, I was still 15. And she literally tried to get the police involved, and I protested, because I was like, you know what, you watched me suffer. I was literally femcel, okay? Listen, I know I have like pretty eyeshadow on today, but I was fucking femcel, okay? Not in the sense of hating men, but in the sense of like that feeling no BF. So I was like, Mom, you watched me suffer through this entirety of my school life, crying about not having a boyfriend, never getting chocolates on Valentine's Day, never getting asked out. I wanted to be the girl who gets the teddy bear middle of the class. I didn't get that. I watched other girls who hit puberty earlier than me because I hit it very late. So I'm still like fat and chubby, and I don't have my tits yet or anything. And then the girls all hit puberty at like 12 in America or younger, and so they're getting asked out and they're getting the chocolates and the teddy bears and getting told like, oh, I have a crush on you, I like you, by boys. And then I'm not getting shit, and I wanted a boyfriend since I could remember, since forever, literally. And like I came out of the womb wanting a boyfriend, okay? That's just how I always was. And I didn't get one till I was 15. And so my mom watches that whole thing. She watches me literally come home crying every Valentine's Day, come home crying from school constantly about not having a boyfriend, not having any friends. And, you know, then I get one and she has a problem with it. So that was my perspective as a dumb 15-year-old. I should have listened to my mom because my mom was correct. That turned out to be a horrific relationship. Horrific. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And so I understand, like, the whole age gap thing. Like, I was 15, he turned 18. Even that was, like, a questionable age gap because there's 2.5 year difference. So my mom was correct in the end, but, you know, I protested. Just like how she's saying she's, like, the know-it-all 15-year-old, oh, but I'm in love type of thing. I did the same thing. I did the same thing when I was that age. So I really do relate.
And this is just all so messed up. So around that time of everything getting blown open, because I'm living with my mom over here.
Yeah.
But we still got my dad and his whole messed upness over here. And he's just like the devil's advocate. He knows about Ian now. He thinks it's great because he's a wounded warrior and he's highly decorated and it's just like him and Heather, right? So my dad's not even like hitting any alarm bells. He's hitting hard go. He's like, yeah, no, this is fine.
Right.
So I end up...
Which is also probably...
So because the dad's basically living vicariously through the guy who ends up grooming her at 17. And he does a lot worse than that, actually, if you listen to this.
Why part of you, like, thought it was fine also because that's what he showed you. And then even then continued to...
Like, oh, yeah, this is totally... Yeah, you know, so I literally have one of my parents being like, oh, it's okay that this 30-year-old gross man has interest in my high school teenage daughter. What?
Yeah.
So around the time everything...
She's right. The dad should have stepped in just like the mom did, especially because he's the one who raised her for the most part. Forster Green, $5 for chat. That's crazy, Brittany. Yeah, so I guess it hits a soft spot for me, and that's why I cover it too. Nick V and MZ, $4.99 super chat. I am 32 and I don't think it's okay for people my age to date teenagers. Definitely creepy. Yeah, it's like, have you ever been around a teenager? Like, at my age, being around a fucking teenager. Stop. Like, what are we going to talk about? We're going to have one thing to talk about. It's going to be TikTok. That's what we're going to have in common to talk about with me and someone who's, like, under 18. Austin Kaser, $5. I celebrated Black History Month today by getting wasted on purple drink, cashing my unemployment checks, not paying for child support, shoplifting some electronics, and shouting F the police and searching for thick white women. You spelled thick with a K, so that's how I know you're actually trolling. That's how I know. So you guys think you're gonna get one over me? Like you're gonna LARP as one of my people. You're gonna LARP as being black like myself. Like, I'm a sister. I can tell if someone's black or not, and I could tell you weren't black the moment you added a K to the word thick. Isabella Live 2.0 $2 Canadian super chat. I've got nothing here. Take my money. I'll take the entire $2 in maple money, which is probably worth like 20 cents now. That really sucks for Canada, though. You guys can't even have guns anymore. Like, what? Why even be in Canada? What's the point? Is that kind of like not... Is that kind of unsafe in Canada? They have wildlife that's pretty big, too, that could harm them. Deborah Breeden, $5 super chat. I had a Brazilian... Why is everyone typing 25 in chat? Okay. I literally, guys, I really appreciate the compliments, but you guys know that, like, I try to be modest about being 36, but, like, I don't like you guys lying to the new people, telling them that I'm 26 or 25. It's really going to, like, set a standard, like, an unrealistic standard, because not everyone ages as good as me. So, like, that's because the black don't crack. So can we like stop trolling the new people? Thank you. Ticked Turmoil Potato, $10 super chat. Thank you. Forster Green, $5 super chat. Yo for yo, Brittany, I'll bring the Hennessy, baby. Yeah, and the Alizé. Don't forget the Alizé. I remember, you guys want to know something so funny? I just remember saying, I was in school, and this is elementary school when I'm still living in Brooklyn. And I came home to my mom. I'm like crying to her because I'm getting bullied. And this is by this girl named Alize. And my mom like wouldn't even take me seriously for a good minute. And I was like, what's your problem? Like, I'm getting bullied. I'm like crying because Alize is bullying me. She's like, her parents really named her after a ghetto drink. I'm like, oh, okay. So literally her parents named her after some ghetto drink. That's what Alize is. And then eventually I made friends with Alize because my mom talked her and she was like, she gave her the talk. She was like, you need to like, basically giving her the sisterhood talk. Like, don't treat her like that. Like, you have to be nice to other women because it's a sisterhood type of thing. And she actually took well to it. And she was like, you know, I'm sorry for treating you that way. We actually became good friends. And that was the first time I actually had friends. And then I moved to Connecticut and lost all that. So... yeah, that was my redemption arc with Alize. But anyway, gonna catch up on a couple more and then we'll return to the video. Isabel Live, $2 Canadian Super Chat. That was a good drum break, Beck. Doggone it. That was a good dog joke. Isabella, this cosplay of being a female comedian must stop. It must stop in my super chats. $2 super chat from Venti. Are you talking about the weird 4chan guy you dated? No, that was my second boyfriend. My first one. I had one before him. Glenn Quag, $2 super chat. Do you think similar is happening to Amaranth? I think that it's totally possible that her husband convinced her or manipulated her into doing more explicit work. But in my honest opinion, I think she would have done some of the things she's doing anyway. Because look, right now, after the whole incident, she's still doing a lot of the similar things she was already doing in terms of like explicit content. So I think that's not quite the same as this situation we're playing here, which is a really good example of actually being trafficked by someone who's supposed to be a loved one. Because Eliza Bleu likes to speak on, survival sex, and, you know, as if she's speaking from experience, and how it's not trafficking, and then she goes on about, like, well, I still view some of my abusers in a light, like, I'm paraphrasing, but she basically says she actually still has some sort of affection towards some of her abusers, and they're still out there, and she was explaining that on one of the podcasts I was watching, and, it's interesting to watch her explain it, of like, I was coerced and I still like the abusers, versus like watching this podcast of these two ladies talking and actually hearing a story with authenticity. And it really provides that contrast. Ghost Crusaders 1999 super chat. Alizé is that orange drink. Tastes like Tang mixed with armpit sweat. Didn't know about it till I moved to the ghetto. Horrible. Oh, I've never had it. I had no idea that that's what it tasted like. Now I get why my mom was laughing. Christopher Gore, $4.99 super chat. I came across an article where she refers to a certain line of work as modeling and even thanks the actress for some mysterious favor. Very creepy. Wait, who are you talking about? Eliza? Zaxton, $5. Thank you. He's like spamming some fucking dead meme. He's been spamming at me for like 2 years. Andy P, $5. This is the online version of Me Too. There are likely more Elizas. Sadly, I haven't believed Me Too stories in years, unless receipts. It is becoming harder though, which is so unfortunate, because it's like you literally need footage of it or it didn't happen. It's literally like Pixar, it didn't happen. And it's like, well, isn't the evidence supposed to be going to the police or things like that, getting authority involved? And it seems like even in some cases, some instances where people do that and their story may be legitimate, they're not believed, and that's unfortunate. Like, there should be a healthy amount of skepticism for sure, to be fair to both parties. But it really does suck to be in that situation, because it really seems like even if you do go to the police and you're vocal about it, it won't be a healthy amount of skepticism from some people. They'll just still say you're lying. So that's a little disheartening to see, honestly. For the legitimate cases.
Blows up. There happens to be a family wedding up in Cheyenne, Wyoming on my dad and stepmom's side. So I end up going out there for the wedding, and Ian comes with separately. My mom doesn't know this, but my dad knows this. So he
by the way, for context, Alizé was black. Anyway.
And Ian comes with separately. My mom doesn't know this, but my dad knows this.
Happy Black History
Month. So he can meet Ian in person. So he's actively lying to my mom, allowing me to come, you know, what is that? Maybe like a 3-hour drive from Castle Rock to Cheyenne, just over the border, for this wedding. My dad is hard playing devil's advocate. Like, he's not even devil's advocate. He's like devil's driver.
Yeah.
So we go to this wedding where Ian is.
So she goes behind her mom's back, goes to a wedding with Ian, who's like in his 30s, she's 17, and they're having sexual relations, and her dad's approving it because he is reminded of himself and Ian, which honestly now, after hearing the whole story, is pretty creepy. Imagine seeing yourself in a predator. But yeah, he's a veteran like him. So he's like, oh, he's literally me. And he enables it. Well, her mom's like, no, this is creepy. Don't do that.
Mental place he had. So he pretty much was just like, okay, I'll just stop paying, you know, my monthly dues. And
Yeah, there's nothing holding it back.
Yep. He ended up getting a job in the oil fields down in North Dakota. So well, to backtrack what I was going to say, and this is just like the icky thing. You know, I'm a 17-year-old minor, just dropped out of high school to be with this 30-year-old man. He's driving me from Colorado back to North Dakota. We stop in Wyoming, in like Buffalo, Wyoming, to get a hotel. And he gets all sorts of liquor, you know, gets me real drunk.
He gets some
starts
Alizé.
introducing me to pornography and stuff. Which I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure showing pornography to a minor is a federal offense.
So that's really gross. A man in his 30s showing a 17-year-old porn. So it's not bad enough that he's already being creepy, already having sexual relations with her, being a predator. He's focused in on her because he sees that she's an easy target. As she said earlier, she was not even attractive as a kid. She was a lot heavier. He likes her seemingly purely because she's 17. And he's like, okay, I'm going to groom you into understanding what I like sexually. So I'm going to show you I'm going to show you porn. And we know what happens in a lot of porn. I highly doubt he was showing her like nice, romantic, vanilla porn, if you catch my drift. So God knows what he showed her in terms of certain fetishes that are popular. And he's showing this to a 17-year-old. So essentially he's grooming her to see, oh, this is normal. This is my frame of reference. My frame of reference for sex is porn. My frame of reference for sex is what he's showing me in this video. And no matter how horrific it is, he's saying it's good. So it must be cool to like that. After all, he's in his 30s. I should listen to him. He loves me. So
Any state that you are.
that's how you
I was looking
that's
at
how
her to
you
see
can
if she
groom
knew.
someone.
Right? So, you know, there's like, and that's where some of like the depravity, the sexual depravity
Yeah.
started.
So he just, like, in this hotel room, he just started showing you porn and, like,
Well, you know, and this is where it gets kind of like that slippery slope.
okay.
So I'm a minor. I should not be looking at porn. As an adult, he should not be showing me porn. So that's just wrong
Yeah.
baseline. But me as a person, me as a child then, I had never had much sexual relations. I had not had boyfriends. I'd never had the opportunity to have any sexual freedom.
Let me pause you really fast.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm only saying that, and I could be totally wrong, but I just want to say this person to person.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is your fault. Like, even regardless of, like, how you were raised and all that, like, even if you just look at it from a relationship perspective, like, no matter what age you are, when you're infatuated with someone and you really, really love someone, no matter what they introduce you to, I mean, unless it's, like, something, like, so far-fetched, like, it's,
Right.
like, you're gonna, I feel like,
So basically, she goes on to say that she gets introduced to pornography and that she personally, the guest, not the host, the guest who was trafficked by her husband, says that she's not even personally into porn. That's what really got me about this moment, was that she's not even personally into it. She was kind of like me in that sense, where she never really liked it, and then he's forcing it on her. He's influencing her. He's manipulating her into doing these weird fetishes and kinks he has. And you might say, oh, that's an assumption. Well, this guy is really fucking creepy, so it's a healthy, fair assumption, and you'll see that later on too, why he might be showing her some of the more immoral themes in pornography, the brutal stuff, the gross stuff. You'll see why later.
like, you're going to be open to it. It's natural. So it's like, even if, you know, like, yes, absolutely, he shouldn't have been doing it. You know, age range, there's so many aspects to it. But I want you to know that, like, because I know, like, obviously you can look back and be like, you know, this I should know, or I should have known, and this, that, and the other. But I think that there's so many people that experience, like, when they look back, they're like, that might have been something I should have picked up on. But in the moment, you really don't. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that it's sick looking back on it now. But it's like, you know, in that moment when somebody wants to experiment or open you up to things, you're kind of like, and especially being, like, young, naive, and in love, you're like, yeah, like, why not? You know what I mean?
And also, kids want to do what more than anything? Be adults. So she views that as a way of being an adult.
The first time when you're 18 and you finally get to go into like a sex shop.
Yeah.
You know, regardless,
curiosity,
yeah,
too.
you're curious, it's exciting, you've never been allowed to do these things before. Like, so I was like, whoa, yeah, you know, like, we can do this and we can look at that. It was like the proverbial, because, you know, since the moment I was 15, I was ready to be 18. I was just,
See?
I had been forced to be I was never allowed to be a child. My childhood, my innocence was taken away. So I was just so ready to be an adult.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't ready to be an adult.
Right.
And he took that from her.
So yeah, no, that none of that, and looking back on that, thank you. Like, I know none of that is my fault, but at the same time, like, when somebody can use a teenager's innocence, like, it just hurts.
Like, do you think that he was showing you that as a form of like experimentation sexually, or more so to like teach you things?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I think because I was excited, he was like, oh, let's see where this goes.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you are a grown person attracted to a minor, you're probably not thinking in healthy, safe ways to introduce a very, very young, quote unquote, adult to these things. Like,
And she makes a really good point there. He's definitely not going to be in a healthy mindset to introduce such serious things in her life that are affecting her for the rest of her life. That's her frame of reference for intimacy now.
as somebody now who's almost 30, who understands the
Like, imagine if he shows her porn that's women getting hit, right? And that's her frame of reference. So he's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then we're just going to increase the weirdness and the intensity. And then next thing you know, oh, well, here's some child play. And we're going to become sexually attracted to child tendencies and infantile behavior. And now that's in the bedroom. And so he's able to groom her into doing anything he wants by showing her porn. He's using porn to do that. Or worse, the porn where it's like, you know, little girls getting cut up, or like videos of brutal non-consensual things. Like, unironically, Pornhub got sued for that. They were asked to take it down. They didn't on several occasions. That was documented. We talked about this a lot. There's a lot of examples of this. Lila McHale-Waite actually posts a lot of receipts on that on Twitter, but I've covered that already. But that's just an example. So this is what he's pushing on the 17-year-old at the time. Thank you, Napalm, for the $10.
World, and you know, all of the good things that come with that, as long as you feel safe and you and your partner are both consenting,
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of really fun things you can have. But if you have somebody holding that power who is pushing you into deeper, darker things that you don't even understand
Right.
yet, that's when that world can get a little scary.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So, you know, it started, you know, in the hotel room, looking, you know, because when I was a high schooler, I think I looked at pornography maybe once or twice, but honestly, I never liked it.
Yeah.
It was gross. All the sounds like weirded me out. I never even had any interest in that. Like, honestly, the weirdest thing I probably ever did was just look at some weird anime. Like, that was my little nice safety wheelhouse. I was happy with that. To this day, I still don't enjoy pornography. I have
At least she came out without an addiction.
some pretty
There's some silver
severe
lining.
PTSD around some of that now. But I think as a person, had Ian Newland never walked into my life, I just never would have been the person that
Thank you,
necessarily
TSUA,
liked
for
that.
the $15.
Like, to each their own. There's other things that I like as far as like the kink world
And
goes.
Ibis MK2, thank you for the $20 super chat.
But I don't know, just watching somebody else do things was just never
Yeah,
for
not
me.
your
You
thing.
know, it's not. It's weird.
Yeah.
But so, you know, that door got opened way too early, not okay, when I was young, before I was 18. So we get to North Dakota, and it's so funny because my dad's been allowing this the whole time, but he is a God-standing, fearing Christian, and we're not having any sex until we're married because that's how he knows I've been raised. Like, eyebrow raise. Like, you have a literal grown-ass man trying to pursue your minor child.
Right.
You think he's just... Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like this weird, like, he was allowing all this, my dad, but at the same time, like, when Ian was working in the oil fields and he'd be like on for 2 weeks.
And she goes on later in the podcast about the religion aspect, making her afraid to leave because all sins are equal in Christianity, according to her. So she was scared to leave her husband, who's not her husband yet in the story, but she's scared to leave him despite all the abusive things he did to her because she fears God. So that was a bad interpretation of that upbringing, and it negatively affected her. Grivcast IRL $5 super chat. There have been some updates on Helen Troy modeling. Free to Fango, and please remember to rewind your YouTube videos. Oh, really? Updates? What kind of updates, Griffcast? I'll have to check out that later. One thing at a time. $2 super chat from Forster Green. Any tips if a girl wants to get hit? Red flag? Yeah, that's a red flag. Like, we're not talking about like, oh, a little butt spank. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like, she literally wants you to like suffocate her. We're not again, so we're not talking about like things within the normal realm of like what vanilla would be, right? It's not as stale as people make it out to be, you know. Most people like a little bit of deviation somewhere, right? People have different erogenous zones, things like that. But if she literally wants you to choke her to the point where she's like actually losing blood flow and oxygen, that's a red flag. If she wants you to actually hit her, so we're not talking about like a butt spank, like a little tss, okay? Like I've done that to guys, like that's a normal thing. That's like an affection thing. But if we're talking about like she actually wants you to harm her, yes, that is 100% a red flag. Because that basically means that she dealt with that as a child and has abusive upbringing, or it means that she has a fucked up perception of what sex and intimacy is through her frame of reference, which often is porn. Another reason to not support porn.
Off for a week, he'd come stay with us, and he'd come stay in like the basement where my bedroom was, but then I'd have to go sleep upstairs with my little brother in his bunk bed. So you're like allowing these things, you're allowing a grown-ass man in, but then you're being like, oh, we're Christian, all of this.
To remain like good in a way.
It's so weird, because the whole time, like, if you're a competent adult, you should know the whole time, like, a grown-ass man's only around for one thing.
Did they have a good relationship?
You know, I think it was just, you know how, or maybe you know how, I've grown up in the military community so much. If you're a veteran, you see a veteran, you're veterans.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it was
they
like,
had something to bond over in a way. Okay.
Yep. And then, you know, of course, my dad being, he was a major in the Green Beret Special Forces, so he was, you know, higher up. He saw the fruit salad, as they call it, all of the different badges and awards on Ian's uniform. And, you know, he does have a Purple Heart. He has a Bronze Star for Valor. He saw active combat and was actually saved by a Medal of Honor recipient, Ross McGinnis, who unfortunately passed away during the incident that wounded him and all the other men. So there's just a lot of pomp and circumstance. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that has been so hard about talking out about this and even getting out of the abuse when I was in the marriage.
So she goes on to say that her husband, who is a well-decorated veteran, because of that, she had a hard time getting anything in terms of charges on him because they leave a lot of leeway, I guess, in the legal system, or at least where she is, for police or veterans, like uniformed people. So it made her situation harder to leave because he had a lot of leverage due to his military background.
And he's there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you were 18 at this point?
Nope, still 17.
Still 17.
Still 17, still a minor.
Okay.
And this is when, like, when he's in the oil fields and I'm at home, he starts really, really pushing me to send porn back and forth to each other. And this is, like, the very first semblance of me feeling, like, not good about it.
Okay.
So she's still 17 here, I believe. And he's asking her to send him CP.
It was like the first thing that started getting weird in the relationship.
Yeah, because I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the pornography.
Right.
But he would be, you know, up in Williston or whatever. You know, we'd be talking on the phone late at night. 'Cause, you know, typical young love high schooler. Like, we're talking every night. We're talking for hours. I'm texting him all day long. You know, he would get, I didn't know at the time because he was like, oh, no, I'm not drinking. Because he's always had a problem with drinking. And he was supposed to be being sober. He wasn't being sober up there. So he would get drunk and he'd message me, be like, oh, you know, look at these videos I sent you in your email. Tell me what you think, what you like about them, which one's your favorite. And they'd be like, okay.
Which is so gross. That is so off-putting. Like, instead of courting someone, having a romantic relationship with someone that is of mindset to consent to that, you go and find the nearest kid in fucking high school and try to shove gross porn down her throat. You're freakish kinks, which you guys will see why I'm saying that later, why I'm assuming that, so to speak, in your perspective. But like, imagine instead of wanting a loving romance, you just want to groom and abuse someone. What the fuck?
Hey, watch like 2 or 3 videos.
Someone
and then
underage
send them
at
to
that.
me. And then he'd be like, oh, look this up and look that up, and like pretty much just like
Like planting things.
But like coaching me along
Yeah.
the way, not even just planting, but pretty much like, here, do this.
Right.
Look at that. And it was, you know, like when you're,
Do you know how rare it is nowadays to even find people who are anti-porn? Like, it's a minority. It's a small minority. Okay? Even especially if you remove religious reasons. And then he finds a gem and he just defiles it. No, get into this thing, get into that. Like, I don't know, guys. For me, if I don't think that you, even if you do drugs, I don't think that you morally should be the first person that introduces someone to drugs, which leads to their demise a lot of the time. I think it's a morally bad thing to do. I don't think that I would do that. I can't say for sure because like I've never done hard drugs like that. I've only ever smoked weed and drank alcohol, but I don't think that that's good to do. Like, oh, you never watched porn before? Let me get you into this destructive habit. It's fucked up. Especially
in a
because
new
she's
relationship
underage.
and you don't want to like upset your partner. It was partially that because like he's a grown man, we've been doing these things, like how do I tell him I'm not starting to feel
Yeah.
comfortable with this, like, so there was starting to be like some of that, and I think I even kind of verbalized not liking it. So he'd like kind of like cool down for a little bit, but then we would have like a weekend where he'd be in North Dakota, and we'd tell my dad, oh, we're just gonna go to a movie and have dinner. Cool. He'd actually go get a hotel room and buy liquor, and we'd like do all sorts of crazy shit and have sexual relations in a hotel room in Fargo.
So shoving porn down a 17-year-old girl's throat after you picked her up from your local dojo and groomed her, not exactly explained away by magic soil. Gotta say, I don't really give a shit if this was in Hawaii, in Japan, or in fucking Texas. This is still messed up. And that's what I mean when I say there's no such thing as magic soil. Opinionated News Guy, $10 super chat. I'm 44. I've had girls, and I mean girls, not women, in their late teens and early 20s hit on me. It's weird and creepy. It makes me think that these girls have had things happen to them in order to do that. Well, here's the thing. Do you visually look 44? Like, maybe they think that you're younger. There is that chance. S'more, $2. Geez, disregard my last message. Spoke too soon before I heard the whole story. Oh. Okay. Anyway, continuing. Hi, Lila.
Under the guise that we were just going to dinner. You know, that's what we were telling my parents at the time. And it's just so gross because I am a minor actively lying this whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know better. I am still a minor child. But yet this grown-ass 30-year-old man is just like facilitating all of it. Like this grand master plan. And, you know, there was, so let's see, I moved in September. So we had October, November, December that I lived with my dad. And then I turned 18 in January. Literally the weekend after I turned 18, we got all of my stuff packed up. We put my car on a dolly and we drove back up to Colorado.
So he basically convinced her to drop out of high school, start getting her GED at her dad's place so that he could be near her more because he's working at the oil field or whatever. And he made her drop her high school education to be with him. And he's just waiting around like a person watching chicken roast, ready to bite into her as soon as she turns 18.
Things that most people up. But it was the pornathon to Colorado. That's when stuff got really, really bad. And that's when he started doing what I call the pornathons. And this is where things really started, like those light bulbs started clicking. But it was already almost too late.
Yeah.
He would, and I don't even know how, and he's not a normal human. So like I press it that, like I don't know how a normal human does this, but he's not normal. He would get belligerently drunk, like where he'd have me go shot for shot with him. And in the beginning, he wasn't like really coercive and abusive about it. It was like, oh yeah, we're having fun, we're gonna drink, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, we're having fun, we're gonna drink, blah, blah, blah. But when I started to not want to drink heavily a whole ass bottle every night, that's where the subliminal mind games came in. That's where the coercion came in. That's where he would get really angry. And I'd be more afraid of his anger than just getting fucked up. I'd be like, okay, you know, I'd rather not poke the bear. I'll just keep taking shots with you.
It gets worse, by the way. In case you guys are like, this is pretty bad, it gets worse. But notice how she's able to pick up every detail of how she was coerced. She doesn't just go around like Eliza Bleu saying, I was coerced. I'm a trafficking survivor. I'm a trafficking advocate. She's going into detail because she wants to share her story, because she knows that anecdotal evidence is some of the most effective evidence you can give to people. It is the most emotionally moving. And she knows by telling her story that she can influence people to not be in these messed up situations and recognize it early. And they can connect with her through that story, which would be good for a trafficking advocate, don't you think? To help other people. You're not forced to share private details about your trauma, of course. But if you're going to be a trafficking advocate and yell it to the rooftops in everyone's fucking face any chance you can get, you would think that you would go through therapy enough to be able to talk about some of the ways that someone can get coerced into something using anecdotal examples, because that's very effective for a topic like this. It's very emotional. People empathize with it. It helps people. But, instead, Eliza will just walk around saying, I was trafficked because someone on Twitter posted pictures of me. Notice the difference here.
And that is the same way it started kind of convolutingly crashing down with a lot of the pornography. He'd be drinking belligerently shot for shot for shot while actively forcing me to watch pornography with him. I kid you not, for literal hours. Hours. And if I wanted to go to bed, if I didn't want to do it anymore, at first it was, oh, don't go to bed, this, that, and another. But it'd get more mean. It'd get more aggressive, more abusive, to the point where I remember one time I was, we're fucking drunk. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I'm finally like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And he got real angry at me, and he followed me to the bedroom, and he wouldn't let me go to sleep. He'd be flipping the lights on at me. And that's
what I mean by the details. She really gets into the things he would do, how he was aggressive toward her, how he flipped the lights, made her drink, had implications if she doesn't drink, that he's going to give her a hard time, and really being forceful with all this and manipulating her. Even if it's not a literal gun to her head, it's still coercive. It's still having a metaphorical gun to her head. That's what that is. And she's giving examples. That's how you're able to recognize things, by having examples. Just like having good examples for parents.
More coercive and more abusey. And that was before we even got married.
Wow.
So, and again, I'm just taken aback, right? So I'm like, okay, well, XYZ, I'm explaining it off, I'm justifying it.
So you guys see why
I'm
I believe her. She's very specific with her
child
details.
Still, with a 30-year-old man
with
who's
examples.
acting fucking crazy now. So he ends up leaving to go to the oil fields for 2 weeks, leaves me completely alone. I just went from living with my parents to moving in with him. They didn't even let me stay home alone at night.
Yeah.
And now I'm just completely alone in a new town. Actually, we weren't even in town. We were outside of town living on a cattle ranch. So no matter how drunk he got and how loud and crazy he got, we were in the fucking middle of nowhere.
Yeah, no one would hear.
Oh God, no.
Metaphorical gun.
So he ended up leaving. I was
another example of a metaphorical gun. The implications.
Okay, well, I'll get the house all put together. I ended up unpacking pretty much his entire life because I didn't have my own furniture. All of the stuff that we got out of his storage was from his last marriage. So I was unpacking his ex-wife's clothes. I was unpacking pictures of his family, of his children. You know how most people will keep Valentine's Day cards and sweet sentimental things from their partner? I found a whole box of that from his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And
That's terrible. Even at my age of, how old was I again? If I had to unpack a significant other's box from their ex-wife, who they have kids with, by the way, I wouldn't be in that situation, but their ex-wife who they had this whole romantic thing with, and I had to unpack that as a 17-year-old, that's even worse. But even at my current age, which is redacted, that would be really annoying. I would not like that. That would emotionally affect me.
I'm
why
just
is he keeping
left
that
with
around?
all this stuff in a house by myself trying to put together a quote unquote home.
And he didn't, at this point, he had no relationship with the other kids, right?
No,
Okay.
no. So that has been very, very tumultuous between the kids he had with his first marriage. And that was the crazy thing. Like after we did get married that following summer, his kids came out to stay with us for a couple weeks. And I was...
Imagine you have to deal with this sick fuck's kids and like you're like 18. That is so much to deal with. I don't know how it was. Okay, so honestly, I will say this. I do appreciate her coming out with her story, but I gotta be honest. If I were in her position at her age, I wouldn't be in that position. I would have been in a position of being like predators targeting me because they see I'm easy prey, right? But in the situation of like they had kids, like even I knew at that age, like that would have been a huge no, a huge no. So that's crazy that he managed to slip right through even with children. It's like not only was he attractive to her, right, physically, but also he managed to get past the age gap, which is a red flag, and then also the fact that he had children, which as mid-30s dating a 17-year-old is a red flag. So that's crazy that he got away with that. Okay, so this next part is pretty gruesome.
My wedding night.
What he does to
We
her.
got fucked up and had another pornathon. And then by the time he finally did want me, his brand new wife, you know, we had sexual relations for a minute. And then he flipped me over and sodomized me and called me his little boy. On my fucking wedding night. Quote unquote wedding night.
Jesus.
And then he left, I want to say not even 2 days later, to be gone for another 2 to 3 weeks.
So if that wasn't bad enough, he also then proceeded to go off on his job for 2 weeks. Yeah. So this is an example. You see these gruesome, gross details of how everyone in chat is cringing at the same time hearing that. That is how you emotionally affect people to get the message across to them. This is a bad thing. This is how you bring awareness to trafficking. Is stories like this that are emotionally impactful. It impacted everyone here. Everyone's typing in chat. Everyone was silent a minute ago. Okay. So if Eliza truly wanted to help people, why wouldn't she do things like that? When she knows that's the most effective thing. Especially as a survivor advocate, you should have been gone to therapy and solved your issues enough to where you can talk about them. If you don't want to talk about your story, then maybe reconsider yelling that you're an advocate 24/7. So yeah, imagine your husband, you're 18, and your husband who's in his 30s makes you watch porn and then tries to get you drunk so that you're, so that she's easier to manipulate. And then he's like, ooh, my little boy, after he sodomizes you. This is honestly the worst story I've ever heard in regard to this topic. Like in terms of anecdotal story, this is the worst one I've heard. This one emotionally affected me the most. Yeah, rewind.
No, we had sexual relations. And then by the time he finally did want me, his brand new wife, we had sexual relations for a minute. And then he flipped me over and sodomized me and called me his little boy. On my fucking wedding night. Quote unquote wedding night.
Jesus.
So for reference, he's bi, by the way. She explains that in the story after this point, that he is bisexual. So that's why he did that. And then not that like, oh, you're bisexual, so you sodomize people on the wedding night, but like that's why he said my little boy. It's because he's sexually attracted to men. And it's interesting, he didn't say my little man, right? He said my little boy.
He left, I want to say not even 2 days later, to be gone for another 2 to 3 weeks.
Do you think that
control tactic, by the way?
Like literally as soon as you got married, it was kind of
mask off.
Right, I was going to say
off.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
And I remember
like that was his goal in a way.
Yeah. And I remember because after that happened and he, said what he said, like it was like something out of a movie. He literally just rolled over and passed out. And I remember just being horrified, just like crying and crying and crying and
right.
like not even being able to like comprehend what had just happened to me because it was just so wildly wrong.
Or even too, I feel like the confusion of like, who is this person? That I just married, right?
Yeah. And with some of the
honestly, if that happened to me, someone rolled me over and said I'm their little boy after they sodomized me and I'm married to this person, I think I would go into a state of dissociation. I don't think I could associate myself with that happening. That is actually my worst nightmare.
Pornathons and
it almost was me once, if you guys recall. It almost was me once.
The aggressiveness the mask had been slipping, but it was like literally the night that we got, and I say quote unquote married because after he was finally removed 3 years later, I found out he was never fully divorced from his first wife when he married me. So we didn't even have a divorce. We had an invalidity of marriage.
Yeah.
So that's why I say quote
So anybody here who is like, oh, at least he put a ring on it.
unquote,
Not even
because,
that.
like,
He couldn't
it wasn't
even do
legally
that.
binding.
Yeah.
He couldn't
And
even
I
do that for
stayed
her.
so long in this relationship because I grew up very, very Christian. I grew up that you serve your husband. Divorce is a sin, and God sees all sin the same. So the way I was brought up, divorcing your husband in the eyes of the Lord is just as bad as fucking murdering someone. And that was too much for my little brain and my little heart. Because, like, not only did I pick a monster, and now I was just absolutely horrified. Like, oh my God, what have I done? But now I'm married to him. I'm religiously bound to him by my faith, thinking that I'm literally
Which is another manipulation tactic, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised he used that against her. I think he did because she mentions that they went to church together. That's something that traffickers will use. They use religion. So, for example, if you're in a culture where you believe like your soul is in a locket, right? And the trafficker's like, I have your soul right here. And you're from a culture where you actually do believe that. That's actually your spiritual belief. Some voodoo shit, right? He's like, well, if you don't do it, I have your soul here. So, you know, that sucks for you if you don't want to do what I say. And they will actually do that. Traffickers will actually use your religion to manipulate you and to guilt you into doing things.
going to go to like hell or disgrace God by leaving an abusive marriage. And like, I didn't, because I thought we were married. And that's, you know, he would weaponize the church, and he would weaponize our religion, and he'd like, oh, blah blah blah, like, we'll go to church, we'll go to Christian counseling, all
There you
this
go.
stuff, like, you know, keep putting
Using religion to manipulate her and trap her.
in my brain the Christian, it's a sin, you know, God will hate you, but then completely acting like very much not a godly husband or godly
Right.
man. But there was just such a dissonance there. You just like, you can't even, like, for a normal young person, I was still 18, I was a baby, you know. I see
Austin Case for $2. If a guy's in a butt stuff, it's a major red flag. It's not a red flag. It's like, don't even stay in that. Like, guys, I literally was in a situation where I didn't know, and I was in a relationship with someone who turned out to be bi, and they didn't tell me going into it, and they later turned out to be gender dysphoric. So yeah, actually, it's more than a red flag. If they give you any inkling, honestly, if you're a girl, it's different if you're a guy, I suppose, than a girl's bi, because girls are just kind of gay in general, it seems like, because it's still in them being in their femininity. That's the reason why it's more of a problem if you're a straight female and you find out your partner is bi, is because there actually is a chance where they will pick dick. Because dick always wins, right? You have a bisexual girl and a bisexual guy. What do they have in common? Dick always wins. Bisexual girls usually end up marrying guys. Bisexual guys usually end up just being gay. So that's a tendency. That's a real thing. That's a tendency that happens. And dick always wins. So ladies, don't even try to compete. I'm serious. Like, if you find out your man is bi, I'm sorry to tell you, like, I don't know how much copium you're drinking, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's pretty much over. It is pretty much over. I'm telling you, from being in that situation, you will never win. You will never outcompete dick.
see my siblings now who are 20, 22, almost 18, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're babies. So it was just so, it was like so well thought out on his end.
Right.
You know, and that's, he is a predator in the truest sense. And people like him who have a patterning like that, and unfortunately people that are like pedo perverted or narcissistic, they have very, very similar ways of going about things. And it's,
Which is why we need to know these signs so that we don't get in these situations, which is why you want to bring awareness to it, which is done by telling your story.
they're like sharks in the water. Was there anything, like, you know, you'll have women that are like, I have such bad taste in men, I can't pick them, I always pick the worst men. And we get that like pushed into our brain. It's our fault that we picked these bad men. Why can't I find a good relationship? Honey, there's sharks in the water. They're looking for that blood. They're looking for a bad upbringing. They're looking for a young vulnerable child who doesn't have good family relations.
I think it's both. In my personal opinion, it's both. But if you're a kid, like, it literally isn't your fault. In her situation, she was 17. It literally was not her fault. Regardless if she was bad at picking men, this should have never happened. He was in his 30s. This is not something she could actually consent to. Like, I don't care what state you're in. Like, she's a 17-year-old. There's no way she actually understands what she's agreeing to with this guy, especially when he ends up sodomizing her, saying, oh, you're my little boy, and forcing her to watch porn and making her drink. In no state would anybody be like, yeah, that's a good thing. I don't give a shit what the law says in that regard. So I think it's a little bit of both, but in her situation, it actually isn't her fault.
Starving for love and affection, they'll bite that hook.
She didn't know.
You know, that is exactly what that kind of person.
Children can, and the reason I say that for anyone, if anyone gives me shit, like, we're gonna just know. We're gonna know that you are a predator sympathizer, because children can't consent. They simply are not mentally equipped to. Doesn't matter how mature they are, so to speak. They cannot consent with adults. Maybe if there's within a 3-year age gap in some circumstances, yeah, you don't want to throw the kids in jail. But in this case, where it's a 30-plus-year-old with a 17-year-old, no. In my opinion, that's not consensual. Because she's not in the right state of mind to actually agree to those things. She doesn't know what she's agreeing to. So no, it's not actually like, oh, she picked the wrong guy. Like, yes, she, in the most literal sense, yes, she picked the wrong guy because of her upbringing, right? We went over that in the beginning, but it's still not her fault because she's a child and she doesn't know better. So in reality, it should have just never happened. If she were like 20 and it happened, then it's like, yeah, then you're picking bad men. But also, yes, they do circle around and try to find easy prey because they stick out like sore thumbs. I can give you guys an example, actually. With Eliza Bleu, she's always shouting about how she has trust issues. I'm big on trust. You know, I'm hard at first, but then when I trust you, you know, she's that type where she's going around shouting about how she's big on trust. And as we discussed, if you're big on trust, usually it means you're not a trustworthy person. If you're having to shout over the rooftops about it every day, that's projection. And so she's basically making herself a target. And that's how she was able to get herself in some unfavorable positions in her life. I don't doubt that she was in some unfavorable positions in her life, especially given she was in the sex work industry, in the prostitution industry. Bad things happen there. They are fed drugs. They are coerced. That's true. That's true. That happens a lot. You're groomed into it. That happens a lot. So I do believe that bad things could have happened to her just from her being not trafficked, but being in that industry, being in any sex work industry. It's not healthy. So I don't doubt that she went through something traumatic in that regard. Doesn't mean she was trafficked. Okay, because she can't get her story straight. I don't know. But at this point, like, I don't even give a shit because she's honestly trying to take everyone down, trying to deplatform everyone. At this point, it doesn't even fucking matter. So I think that bad things could have happened. But yeah. But you could see in this girl's tone, like, she's not doing the whole I'm a victim thing. She's not coming from that position. She's coming from a place of strength. And you can tell in the way she tells a story, you can tell in the way she carries herself, and she explains it as well. And that's a key difference between her and someone like Eliza Bleu.
Worse men. And we get that like pushed into our brain. It's our fault that we picked these bad men. Why can't I find a good relationship? Honey, there's sharks in the water. They're looking for that blood. They're looking for a bad upbringing. They're looking for a young vulnerable child.
And I don't doubt that Eliza ended up in sex work because of that she had something wrong with her upbringing. Clearly her dad, she has some daddy issues, as we've discovered, with her dad being that politician, allegedly. I saw the photo of them together. I'm pretty sure it's her dad, but he was called and they asked him about it. He was like, I'll put it to you this way. If she contacts you, they're asking him about Eliza, I'll speak with you. So they're not even on speaking terms, it seems like, Eliza Bleu and her dad. So I don't doubt that that was a contributing factor for how she ended up in the sex work industry and prostituting herself, in my opinion, in the definition I use of prostitution, being that you're selling something sexual for an agreed transaction with the intent of like the other person getting off. And that's the only thing it's used for. So that's the difference between art and porn, is that porn only has one case use, which is to come. And then in the case use of art, it's for multiple reasons. Maybe you hang it, you look at it, you appreciate it, you draw it. There's different uses for it. Porn has one use. One. That's what makes it different from video games and art. So in that case, if you're only being used as something to be exploited, like you're a thing, an object, do you really think that that's good for you and healthy for you? Would you want that for your daughter? Would you want that for your friend? Would you want that for your mom? So I don't doubt that she ended up in sex work because of her daddy issues. Don't doubt it. But you're seeing the contrast increase as this podcast is going on, the difference between someone who has it together and is able to bring awareness to the topic versus someone like Eliza who failed to do that properly because she wasn't authentic in the way that she did it. Voice of the People, $5 through chat. I need to show you something off stream. I found nobody speaking of how she did dirty movies. Oh, really? You can email me through my website, brittanyventi.com. The Opinionated News Guy, $5 super chat. How many boys does this guy mess with? Has anyone checked on his own kids? Yeah, that's the thing. And they get into that a little bit toward the end of the podcast, this guy that she's with and his kids and all that, and how they try to warn his new wife, but she's not listening. So that's really unfortunate. And he's just, spoiler alert, he gets away with it, basically. Trent Ronzer, and it's to do with the fact that he was military. Trent Ronzer, $2 Canadian. Eliza should listen to Wash Yo Ass. It would help. You know what? Her and Tariq Nasheed would actually make a great couple. I think. They're both like the perfect amount of clout goblin. Viral Shorts, $5 super chat. You have to understand Eliza's dad could be a strict dad or the passive dad that compliments her and spoils her hard. Oh, yeah. We don't know the details because he won't even speak on it. Other than saying, well, if you get her to talk, I'll talk. So we don't know if he did everything he could, right? But for Eliza's dad, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But clearly she does have some family issues because you don't just end up in fucking sex work. You don't just end up there randomly. Certain people go toward it from certain backgrounds and certain circumstances.
Good family relations. Who's so like starving for love and affection, they'll bite that hook. Mm-hmm. You know, that is exactly what that kind of person looks for. Yeah. They are a shark in water.
Yeah. And that's something you will find if you research trafficking, is that they do look out for people who make themselves targets, such as Eliza yelling about her trust issues. I have trust issues. I have trust issues. I don't trust anybody. Like, wow, way to paint a red mark, a red X on your head. So the person knows, oh, if I act like a trustworthy person with her, then I can use her. Then I can leech off of her. Just like how that Amanda Jean person does, using any life force near her to suck the energy out of. Because she can't heal herself. It's like,
so he left for 2 days.
Good job. You made yourself a target.
Okay, so
because he was in the oil fields. Yeah, and I remember, and it's so sad now because I know why I was so depressed because of what he did to me.
Right.
But those 2 or 3 weeks, I was so depressed, and I couldn't figure out why. And I remember, like, because we would go to Lifetime Fitness up in Parker. Mm-hmm. We worked out all the time. That was like our big thing. We lifted like every day. He was really, really into lifting and physical fitness. And I remember just like not being able to hold my shit together. Like one time I got to the car and I called him and I just started like hysterically
I'm looking
crying.
for this the whole stream.
And I didn't know why. And now in hindsight, it was because I had just been abused and traumatized. Like there was part of my young, still child brain. Because I mean, I wasn't even like, at that point in time, had I still been in, like not dropped out, I still would have been in high school. Yeah. I was still technically a high schooler. Like my brain couldn't handle what I'd been through. So I had a lot of like emotional issues that 2 or 3 weeks that he was gone. But when he came back, we were leaving for a cruise to like Jamaica and the Bahamas for our honeymoon. So it was like, oh, forget about all this horrible thing that just happened. We're going on a cruise. We're going to go see different countries. It's our...
Yeah, so that's also, I want to kind of piggyback off of that. People do that to manipulate all the time. It's like the push and pull thing. Not in the healthy sense of having healthy boundaries or whatever, and like genuinely reacting poorly when someone treats you bad, which would be pulling away, and then, you know, being closer with them when they're treating you nicer. We're not talking about like a genuine push and pull. We're talking about manipulative push and pull, that people who are very manipulative will do. People, you know, dark psychology, people who are very low empathy, low conscious behavior, and that's how their brains are, and they can't change it. So people try, but it's like you actually can't change it. So yeah, people will do that as a way to manipulate. Like, oh, I'll love bomb you. Right, narcissists do that. I'll love bomb you, and I'll treat you really nice for like a week, and then it's back to the same old shit. It's back to them treating you like garbage, and then you're like pulling away, right? Naturally. Natural response. And then they're like, no, I'm gonna love bomb you again. It's gonna change. So that's what that kind of reminds me of. Obviously they happen to just be going on their honeymoon, but it just reminded me of that's a manipulation, a tactic, an abuse tactic that's used. And they use anything they can with trafficking. They don't have integrity. What do they care?
Honeymoon. So like, I think for protection, like psychological protection, there was part of me that just kind of, I wasn't getting out. I was already married to him. I had moved. My mom wasn't, like for a while, my mom wasn't talking to me. There was a good 6 months where we didn't talk. It was just, I hurt her. Like, I fucked up my mom. Like, I can't, like, it almost makes me want to cry. I can't believe I fucking did that to her. When she was literally the only person trying to keep me from that man.
Wow,
Yeah.
she's like breaking.
So I wasn't going to be like, hey, mom, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I at that point, I wasn't even able to probably put those thoughts together.
Yeah.
But like.
And it all happened so fast, too.
So fast.
You know, like.
From September to January. I mean, gosh, it was just September. It feels like a few weeks ago. And his sexual depression.
So this next part is pretty much where the story gets even worse. I know you guys are like, dang, the sodomizing, that was pretty bad. Oh, just you wait. Just you wait.
The pornothons.
Gets worse.
He was really into like wanting to be a swinger, wanting to go to the swinger clubs and like all this stuff. And that was something I just like, no. And he'd like fantasy talk where he'd be like, oh, I want you to go find somebody and blah, 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 blah. And then like tell.
So now, not only was she sodomized and she finds out he's gay, but also it's, I want you to fuck other people. I'm starting to think this guy that she's dating was Jack Murphy.
Me about it, or like bring them back, like pretty much just a lot of like really gross, like I don't want to say gross because to each their own, but for me it felt very gross, and it was like really gray line because, you know, one part of our relationship, like we're supposed to be this Christian couple, we're going.
And it's not just the cuckoldry, it's also the creepy comments about young women, young girls, I should say, that were made.
Into church, all this stuff, which is in like complete opposition of like being in a swinger relationship and like swapping.
Yeah, and they're Christian, just like the Jack Murphy situation. Don't you guys love how that just goes full circle? Like Eliza Bleu, Jack Murphy, this, like the whole circle is there.
Partners and
stuff. A whole ring.
So again, like that dissonance in my young
Jack
brain
Murphy's
was really,
ring
really
that
hard
he showed
to even,
the world.
Like, comprehend why it felt so wrong. But he like really started pushing like wanting to go to swinger clubs and all this.
Yeah, her
and I
husband
just
was
had on
hetero
I was only a couple
flexible.
months post pregnancy, postpartum, and I just started going back to the gym, and I met somebody.
So she
and
has
this
his
is
kid
where
because he tricked
I
her
take my
into thinking that he was infertile to trap her.
responsibility for what
She
I
mentions
did,
that
but to an
earlier.
extent. I started talking to this person. I started liking them, and I was, for my own morality, I was going outside the bounds of our relationship. But at the same time, we were talking about being a swinger couple. So I wasn't, but I was, you know. So at one point, I did end up just once kind of hooking up with this guy from the gym, and I immediately felt really, really bad about it. And I told Ian.
Do you think he was hooking up with other people?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
He gave me like chlamydia when I was pregnant.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so like.
Yeah, it's actually getting worse by the second. I know, guys. I know. Just when you thought, every time you hear something, you're like, no, this has to be the peak. This has to be the peak. And it just continues to get worse. Yeah, he gave her an STD or STI.
Like those hours and hours
she
that he
seems
was
pretty
gone, like, at
honest.
the gym. Oh no, 100%.
Okay.
He was not being faithful. Like when you go in for your pregnancy appointments, like you usually do a urine sample every single time. They just, you know, check a whole shit ton of stuff. Like didn't have an STD, didn't have an STD, didn't have an STD. Oh, all of a sudden chlamydia. Like
Right.
where'd that come from?
Dirty dick.
Dude, and like not to give you
Whoa, that was kind of mean. Not to the guy, but to her, because she has it now. She's saying that she has a dirty pussy.
little sneak peek here. He gave me HPV, which has led to my pre-cancerous diagnosis of having cervical cancer. One of the reasons I have to get my hysterectomy is because of his dirty dick.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, dude.
Seriously, this is one of the worst trafficking stories I've ever heard.
And that's like not even one of the worst stories, dude. Like one time, I don't remember if this was like right after I had Anna or right before I got pregnant, but he was supposed to be going on base because he had an appointment and then go to the Connex and the PX, which is just like the grocery store. And he's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 I'm going to stay the night. It's just going to be easier that way. I'm like, okay, whatever. Totally believing him. Until I see in the office on his Facebook that he has open, you know, back in the day when you get a message, it would just pop up in that little like message square.
Yeah.
So I'm just walking by the office. He's supposed to be on base and boop, boop, like I see a little Facebook thing. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm just curious. I heard the sound, go to see. It's this one notorious gay guy from Lifetime. So what hotel did you get? And they're like talking back and forth to each other on Facebook. And I'm like watching it happen live. He's like,
Yeah. It gets worse.
oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm here. Oh, that's
Believe it
amazing.
or
When time
not.
should I come over? What's the room?
So he's hooking up with men too?
He was hooking up with a gay man. So I'm like literally
No, it was a gay man hooking up with a gay man.
seeing all of this play out live. I call him and I'm like, so how's base? He's like, oh, it's great. This, that, and another. I'm going to hit the Connex soon. I'm like, okay. I give
Oh,
it about
people in chat are asking if she got AIDS too. Considering this guy, I'm sure she would have known. They would have tested her for it, but like, she's lucky she got out of this alive. Literally, she could have died. He almost gave her cervical cancer. She has to be pre-treated for that. She could have gotten AIDS. I mean, I'm sure, like, I think HIV is treatable, but AIDS isn't as treatable. Literally, not even just the abuse, the physical abuse he did with her, but also the giving her STIs. She's lucky she got out of this live. Also, something I want to mention that she mentions in the beginning that I skipped over was that he takes his finger and hooks onto her mouth like that, like called fish hooking. He fish hooks her and drives her around the room. Like that was one of the forms of abuse he did with her that was physical, and he would take her and pick her up and put her down forcibly, like forcing her to, like, because she's smaller, she's like 5'4", I believe, or 5'5", and he's taller, so he's just able to, you know, do what he wants with her in a not sexual way. And she went over that earlier, so that's important context too in terms of how he was treating her, being her husband who groomed her and all. So what do we have so far? We have this guy coerces her as a 17-year-old, manipulates her into sexual relations with him when he's 30 because he's a war veteran. He gets away with it. And he grooms her, makes her drop out of high school. She gets married to him. Invalid marriage, not even a real marriage. To her knowledge, it's a real marriage because he's married before. Then, after all this, he sodomizes her and says, "You're my little boy." And then she finds out he's gay. And she catches him cheating on her with a gay man. And physically abuses her and fish hooks her. And also made her watch pornography that she didn't want to watch, trying to give his degenerate habits, so to speak, onto her, a 17-year-old, when he was in his 30s. And that's where we're at right now. That pretty much recaps what we've gone through so far, what she's been through so far. And she has his kid, so she's trapped. And in the middle of
30,
nowhere
40
when she's
minutes
with him.
until that gentleman was supposed to meet him at his room. I call the hotel and I am like, hi, blah, blah, blah. My husband's staying in room number whatever. Could you just patch me through to the phone line? So he answers the phone in his room. I'm like, so how's fucking base?
What did he say?
He didn't deny a single fucking thing of it, and he refused to come home. So he still messed around with the gay guy and the gay guy's
HPV.
boyfriend.
Wow.
Even though
So he cheated on her and gave her STIs. And he didn't even give a shit that he cheated on her.
I literally called the hotel room and was like,
Wow.
so, lies.
Yeah.
They're, like, that man, like, to the truest extent is 100%, like, antisocial personality disorder or, like, legit sociopath. Because just the lack of any human emotion or anything that even resembles remorse, non-existent.
Right.
Like, nothing there but just, like, violence and anger.
Yeah. So what happened when you came?
Okay, so this is the second time I'm seeing this in chat. I mean, she cheated too, so free game. He literally asked her to cuck him. Are you seriously going to sit here and be like, oh, well, she deserved this? Did we just recap how he literally fucking groomed her, sodomized her, tricked her into having a baby trapped her, and physically abused her? Did we not just go through all of that? And then he got her when she was unable to consent, when she was 17, and he was in his 30s? She's supposed to be in high school, she drops out because of him? And you're like, oh, but she cheated. Honestly, like, I cannot with some of you. You will find some way to demonize her, even in a horrific situation like this. What is wrong with you? It was not fair game. What about this was fair?
Came home and you told him about the guy from the gym.
So I told him,
Are you
like, I
insane?
felt bad. I was like, this is what I did. And he lost his ever-loving fucking mind. He kicked on and I out for 2 weeks. Wouldn't let us come home. I had to go stay with my mom. And
Hold on. He kicks her out. We'll get back to 10 seconds. She made bad decisions. Yeah, she made bad decisions. But guess what? You can't actually make a decision to have sex with an adult when you're a child. Some people here really do not understand what the word consent means. Consent, guys, let's go back for a second and go over what consent means, because I actually have to explain this. Like, I didn't think I would have to actually explain this, but I do, apparently. Consent means that you are mentally in a state capable of understanding what you are consenting to. In order to consent to something, you have to know what you're agreeing to. If you are a child, in her case, she was 17, and this guy's in his 30s, and she's from a small town until she was 15. She has no frame of reference other than her mom telling her not to do it, and then her dad's telling her to do it. She's not able to consent to that. She's not mentally capable to consent to that. If she were, and it goes to show throughout the video, she's not mentally able to consent to that, because look at all the bad shit that happens to her. Did you think that she agreed to all that? Did you think that she knew she was going to get herself in that situation? Definitely not, which is why she's bringing awareness to it. That's not consensual. To consent, you have to have two options. Rule number one, you need to have two options. No has to be an option. Otherwise, it's not consent, it's force. You need to have two options. You have to be able to say no, and you have to be in the mentally right state to say yes to what you're consenting to. So meaning if someone drugged you, that's not consent. If you're underage, you're not mentally developed enough to understand what you're consenting to, that's not consent, especially not with an adult. That's beyond a 3-year age gap. If there is CP online, a person who's underage, their nudes are online, that's trafficking. You can't consent to that. You don't know what you're agreeing to when you're a child. You don't understand the consequences. Can't believe that to actually explain to some dumbasses here what the fuck consent is. Like, did you not get it shoved down your throats by enough postmodern feminists to know what the fuck consent is? Like, do I have to really sit here and explain it? Like, how does someone not understand how a child can't consent?
this is what I did.
And what about when she turned 18? Grooming. He groomed her into it. What do you mean she turned 18? He started on her when she was 16, 17. He groomed her into it. Oh, but magically, the sun moved an inch to the left, and she went from 17 years old and 364 days to 365. She's 18, guys. The sun moved 1 inch, so now she understands the fuck she's consenting to. Oh my god. Are you literally fucking retarded? Holy shit. She was literally groomed into it. No, it's not consent when she turned 18 because she was being fucking groomed. Do you not know what grooming is? Moron? We're not stopping for any more idiots in chat. I explained this enough. Clearly we have some predators in chat.
Ever-loving fucking mind. He kicked
Beyond
John and I out for
ignorance.
2 weeks, wouldn't let us come home. I had to go stay with my mom. And I'm just like beside myself, right? So I'm not taking into account all of the horrible sexual things that have happened, all of the things that he's orchestrated, all of the seeds that have been planted, all of just like the depravity, right? And all I can see is I'm a horrible wife and I've cheated on my husband. Not
Yeah, exactly. He destroyed her understanding of sex completely.
kind of seeing that, like, the gray areas of the swingers and, you know, feeling very scared and unsafe in a relationship doesn't really allow you to leave in a safe way to like start a new relationship. So I 100% like take responsibility for, you know, not doing something morally upstanding, but I didn't try to hide it. Like, I fucked up and I came home and I was like, I fucked up. We've been talking about some really gray area swinger shit and I don't feel like I did was right. And he took that and ran with it. So, you know, Anna and I stay with my mom for a time. And I'm like just trying to get him to like let me come back home.
So after all this, he kicks her out as if like he didn't do any of this, as if she's the devil. So demonizing her, another manipulation tactic, using guilt.
And he's like, we're talking about all this stuff and like counseling, and we're gonna go to counseling. And I pretty much come home on the guise that everything's okay, we're gonna work through it, we're gonna start going to, of course, Christian counseling. And I'm like, this is great, you know, maybe this is what we
using her
needed,
religion
you know, to
against
finally
her.
like fix our relationship. Because throughout this whole time, like, we've been going to different counselors, we've been doing like, you know, the partner bonding military events where like you're going
Hey,
to
listen, I've already watched this. You guys need to be watching. I've watched this already.
a day or two event just to bond with like the military person and their spouse to like create deeper bonds and all of that stuff. Like,
Pay
we're doing all the
attention.
things. I'm trying to get him to stop drinking. Like, I'm trying to like one time he
Oh,
had
I forgot that little detail. He's also an alcoholic,
a whole suicide
a
thing and
violent alcoholic.
had to be in mental.
But
like,
what about her?
inpatient
Shut
in
the
the mental
fuck
health ward
up.
of the VA. Like, came and visited him, like was trying to do fucking everything I could to help this man, you know, from war shit to drinking shit to like just physical ailment shit. And he finally lets me come home.
But guys, sure, he was an abusive alcoholic that baby trapped her and groomed her. But what about his feelings? Why don't we stop to think about how he feels about the situation, right? There's some people unironically in chat. Like, I know some people are trolling at this point, but unironically, there were a few people in chat. They're like, but how can we make this her fault? 772 Hustler $5 super chat. High percentage chance this guy was a serial predator manipulator. He did the same thing to many girls, not just her. Oh yeah, he did. He did, and she actually goes into that. That's how he had kids before, and then he moved on after her too. John Snowden, $5 super chat. I've been in and out of relationships for years, sort of a serial monogamous. I feel you. I have never felt comfortable around swingers or talk of swinging. Yeah, I feel you. Relatable.
Under this guise of like working on things. And I don't even know if that really lasted at all once I like got home. Because again, like the whole facade falls. And his
Thank you,
thing
Voice
was
of
pretty
People,
much,
for
we're going to
$2
do what
super
I
chat.
want to do now, whether you like it or not, or I'm kicking you out and I'm keeping the child because I get to keep this house. I'm the wounded warrior. And since you struggled with postpartum depression, which I did for a time, you know, considering I was being abused the whole relationship and pregnancy, like big shocker, I was having some depression issues, you know.
And she also had pregnancy complications. I skipped over that part. She almost died.
Spoke to my doctor about it, had been put on antidepressants for a time. He took that and completely weaponized it and was like, I can take your child away from you. They will give me full custody because of you saying that you have postpartum depression.
So that's extortion. He's extorting her. If you leave, I will take your child from you, even though I'm abusive and I baby trapped you. That is trafficking. Another aspect of trafficking.
I'm barely 20.
But you'll see why the final nail in the coffin in what makes this a trafficking case. It's not just him manipulating her and trying to get her to send nudes when she's underage and all that, all the things that we've discussed. It's not just the manipulation and the abuse. It's also what he literally has her do.
years. Like, I'm 20 years old. I believe him. Like, why wouldn't I believe him?
Right.
He's so much older than me. He's like a highly decorated veteran. Like, of course he could take my child away from me. Like, where would I even go? I don't have a house. I don't have a job. So I'm like, yeah, no, like, you know, okay, let's fix this, quote unquote, fix this. And it started with camming. Like, he would, and it's hard because it wasn't like he was.
Okay, like, how many times do I have to tell you guys in chat that keep trying to switch this on her somehow to shut the fuck up? Like, how many times am I gonna have to tell you shut the fuck? I'm gonna start banning people. Straight up, I'm gonna start banning people. That's not extortion. Women do that daily. For family court helps. In the actual statistics of it, most men don't even want their fucking kids, and they let the wife have it. First off, if you actually look in the statistics. Second off, when the men actually want it, they usually do get custody, by the way. Second off, yes, it is fucking extortion. She just got done explaining how this guy has a bunch of fucking medals. He's using that against her. The fact that he was in the military because he knows that he has leverage on her. He baby trapped her. And he's like, oh yeah, guess what? You were diagnosed as depressed. So now I'm going to use your medical illness against you, which I fucking caused, along with STIs they fucking gave her. And guess what? I'm going to take your kid if you don't do this. And you'll find out what this is in a second.
Forcing me, like, he had me by the back of my neck forcing me, but it was that psychological fear, the coercion, everything that would happen if I didn't do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't ever like hit me, but he was so physically aggressive, like grabbing me, grabbing my clothes, doing the fish hook. He only, thank God, did it a handful of times, but like one of his favorite things, I'm not a very big person, I'm only 5'4". He would grab me by my shoulders and pick me up as high as he could and then throw me down onto the ground as hard as he could. I have a compressed SI joint in my back now from that.
Literally gave her permanent damage to her body. In more ways than one, you'll hear later.
It is a completely horrifying feeling to feel that vulnerable, to literally...
Meanwhile, we have Eliza Bleu going on camera with her black eye, like, posing with him, putting makeup on with it. Meanwhile, she's over here like, yeah, he broke a segment in my fucking back and also ripped my asshole open and possibly gave me cancer and also chlamydia. This is a fucking trafficking story. Eliza Bleu posing with her black eye, making her vague statement of like, this is what trafficking victims look like. She did it in a way, her statement was like, not even specific, like, oh, a pimp gave me that, a guy gave me that. She didn't say that. She said in a very vague, manipulative way of, she was posing with it like this, with her makeup on and like smiling in the photo next to it with her black eye, saying, this is how trafficking victims look. Oh yeah, you did it to yourself. She is posting that with a vague statement so that you assume, you're being manipulated to assume that a guy did that to her in an attempt to abuse her. But in reality, what probably happened was she got it in an unrelated circumstance, I would assume, based on her smiling in the fucking photo with it and posing with it, having makeup on, and then she posted that caption with it for attention. Could it have been inflicted by a guy maliciously? Yeah, it could have. But that's not exactly how abuse survivors act, guys. I was physically abused. I never was out here fucking taking selfies of it or pulling a Pokemon and taking a photo of me crying for attention. Oh, guys, look, I take photos when I cry. Aren't I so cute? Teehee. Like, I wasn't doing that shit. You don't do that. So this is the difference between someone who actually has been through some shit and Eliza Bleu.
Be picked up and just
Hi, Yellow
chucked across
Flash.
the room.
Oh, Yellow Flash's main account got banned again. What was it for this time? Was it over Eliza again?
So, you know, first it started with the camming and like doing things for cam and like taking a bunch of pictures together.
Yeah, also
to put
Eliza
out
was
on
calling a
porn
bunch of lies.
sites for the
There's that
like
too.
meetup.
Hold on. Let me rewind that.
First it started with the camming and like doing things for cam and like taking a bunch of pictures together to put out on the porn sites for the like meetups. And again, all of this was so, and even still I don't understand, because he was doing all of the things. He made the sites, he was taking the pictures, he was uploading things, he was like, he would have me live cam, but he, you know, he'd be the person doing all the laptop shit.
Was he taking full?
So he coerced her into camming, or else he was going to take away her child, because he was going to use her depression diagnosis that was from the stress of him abusing her, and he was going to use it against her if she did not cam. That is case closed. That is trafficking. So if you, in case you're wondering about this whole story, what exactly makes trafficking? Yeah, there's a lot of trafficking factors with him trying to solicit nudes from her underage. That's trafficking. Him using manipulation and abuse, and showing a 17-year-old as a 30-year-old pornography as their first sexual experience. Yeah, there's a lot of grooming aspects, and that's part of trafficking, but this is like the nail in the coffin for what makes this a true horrific trafficking case and what it looks like. He makes her start camming, manipulates her into doing it, because, otherwise I'm going to extort you.
Nude photos, and then also, like, you know what cam girls do? Pretty much that.
So were you like masturbating on camera?
Yep. So it was like masturbating on camera, us doing things on camera.
And then people would pay to watch, right?
Something like that.
Okay.
Again, I wasn't.
So this is basically what Eliza is trying to present as this girl, right? She's like, oh, non-consent. Eliza tried to make out the situation of me posting screenshots of her in a music video, which I think was an advertisement for her escorting, in my personal opinion. That's what I think that was for. But she got mad at me saying it's non-consensual, even though she did consent to it. We saw the recordings at the beginning of the stream of her consenting to it. She wrote blogs about how much she loved it, how she chased the world star hip-hop guy down to put her in that video. Okay, she's claiming it's non-consent after that, because I posted a screenshot from a public music video, right? So she's trying to act like this is her. That this situation of this girl right here is her. Like, oh my God, that it'd be like, oh, if I posted a screenshot of this girl masturbating who's coerced into camming, to not have her child taken away from this abusive man who's very violent and an alcoholic. Eliza's trying to act like I posted a screenshot of this girl doing that. But that's not the situation here. It's not if somebody posted a screenshot of this woman here being forced to be on camera and manipulated being on camera into doing things she doesn't want to do when she's someone who doesn't even like porn. That's how Eliza's trying to present herself, though. This is an actual case of that. So that's the difference. Notice how she gives details. Notice how she goes in depth. And this is just me skimming around the highlights. I'm skipping around a lot of things, guys. There's a lot of graphic stuff in here. You can watch it yourself in your own time if you want to hear those details. But it really goes to show the difference between the two cases.
Yeah, you were just like a pawn.
Yes, and I don't know.
Eliza can't give details.
I wasn't
like
allowed
this.
to know these things. If he did make money off of
and
me,
explaining it.
I never knew and never saw any of it.
And explaining the manipulation.
So it kind of started out.
And also, here's another important part that I just talked over. She goes and says that he took her money. Another aspect of trafficking, lying to them and then taking their money. Manipulating them into doing it and then lying and saying, oh, well, you were going to get that money? Haha, JK, I'm taking money. I'm taking all the money after I just manipulated you into doing this thing that you wouldn't have wanted to do otherwise had I not manipulated you or extorted you. And this reminds me of the Andrew Tate situation in terms of his website, him using the lover boy method, him admitting to that he was using that tactic to make women fall in love with him so he can manipulate them into going on cam. And then he also said on video, we went over this on the stream, if you guys want to find it, he said that he would take their money and lie to them, be like, oh, it's taxes, and take their money. So that's when it becomes trafficking. That's a trafficking situation example, is when you're taking their money, you manipulate them into doing it because, oh, you love me, so you're going to do this for me. And it's very cold. It's very not romantic. And it doesn't promote healthy households at all. It's disgusting. So that's an example.
You were just like a pawn.
Yes, and I don't know if we made money. I wasn't allowed to know these things. If he did make money off of me, I never knew and never saw any of it.
Okay.
So it kind of started out as that. But then that wasn't enough because he wanted to do what he wanted. And his thing was like, we're going to do this until I feel satisfied. And then we're done. It wasn't like, oh, you just have to do this one thing or just have a threesome and we're even. No, like he took full, like, icky
Did
control.
you guys ever meet up with anybody on the meetup sites?
Yeah, so one couple, he drove me out to their apartment and they had like a whole camming, like they were well-known cammers. I don't even know if I'm using the correct terms.
Yeah, I don't know.
They had like this whole site, a whole base, like they do all of these different things. Like they had a whole sex following. And he took me over there, you know, against my will. I didn't want to do any of these things. And we pretty much like were doing cam stuff, all 4 of us, and doing like a soft swap. So that's pretty much where you're switching spouses, but you're not having like full sex. And I was very, very uncomfortable. Like they were force feeding, not like, they're like, here, drink. Like, I'm like,
I can't name a worse situation to be in than this. Like, in my point of view, in terms of the things I value, this would be my worst nightmare.
fuck, if it makes anything better, I'll drink, you know? And it just got to a point where, I don't remember what happened, but we're like, okay, let's come back again later. Because I don't know if it was me just not feeling good about things or I'd gotten drunk. I don't remember what it was, but the couple I don't think had any inkling that I wasn't consensual with all of this. So then I think it was only a few days later, maybe the next weekend, we ended up coming back again and doing more stuff. And that's where at one point, because, you know, we're live camming the whole time. Oh, God, I mean, again, they were just having me drink so much, so it's a little bit fuzzy. But they were trying to get me to dance, and I'm just not a dancer, whether I'm drunk or not. And I finally was like, I don't want to fucking dance. And instantly the whole vibe changed. And I think that's when that couple finally caught on that maybe I didn't really want to be there. Mm-hmm. That it wasn't really my decision, that I was being coerced into it. And
if it wasn't bad enough that you ripped her asshole open, you sodomized her, you took away her childhood, made her drop out of high school, you baby trapped her, you abused her. But now you're gonna go and fucking embarrass her in front of other people too. Like, imagine being someone like, plenty of people here, I'm sure you would never dance in front of someone. Like, I would feel uncomfortable like dancing in front of people unless I was like really drunk maybe. But even then it's like not really like something that's like me dancing. That'd be like something I do by myself in my apartment, listening to music. Like, I don't do that in front of other people, even like a spouse. So, at least as of right now. And so imagine being that type of person and then someone makes you dance, like dance monkey dance. That is so infuriating and embarrassing.
Thank God they kind of like closed it all down and we didn't ever see them again. But that's when the worst of the stuff happened. So as you've heard, he liked men as well. And
Brittany Brittler danced on stream the other day. That's not real dancing. That's like joke dancing. I'm talking about like you're actually trying to be sexy and do or do choreography. I still fuck up that word.
Had this whole thing, like his new fantasy after I guess the cam couple didn't work out, was having a threesome with another man, so that he could mess around with a dude and then both the dudes could mess around with me. And this was something that I like really did not want to do, because he wanted to do double penetration. He had this whole thing on feeling.
Okay, so this part is really gross. Forewarning. So, you know, if you don't want to hear it.
And then both the dudes could mess around with me. And this was something that I like really did not want to do, because he wanted to do double penetration. He had this whole thing on feeling the other guy's dick through my body while they're both pretty much like raping me at the same time. So that happened, and that was really, really, really bad with this one guy. And I remember I was drinking, but I think that to backtrack, Ian.
Yeah, get your ass ripped open, get called a good little boy after you're a newlywed wife, and then proceed to get raped by other men too while we're at it.
I will never have 100% proof of this, but I am quite positive that he was slowly poisoning me to try to kill me.
Why do you think that?
Because I started getting really sick, and then right after my 21st birthday, I had to have an emergency gallbladder removal.
She wasn't even 21 yet.
Because my gallbladder was so inflamed.
He's having other men rape his wife.
To explode. So when they did remove my gallbladder and do the autopsy, thinking they followed.
Doesn't this make Eliza claiming that her image being used to catfish men as trafficking looks so fucking dumb? Like when you're hearing a story like this.
Like gallstones or something, because to have a gallbladder removal surgery at 21 is highly unusual. Most people that have gallbladder issues are older, overweight, or eat a very fat, saturated diet. I was none of those things. I was training for a bodybuilding competition. I was very well fit. When they did the autopsy, they found nothing. But after talking to another one of the survivors, who she knows he was drugging her, I'm pretty sure he was putting something in my food to try to slowly kill me. But during that one bad trafficking incident with the other gentleman, I was drinking, but I got fucked up. Like, in a way I've never gotten drunk before, like date rape drug, like fucked up. Something was in my drink. And they did the stuff and I was just completely cathartic. I was out of it. Like, pretty much just, like, I can remember parts of it. But
It's honestly good that she doesn't remember it. I'm gonna be honest. In a way, it's a blessing in disguise that she doesn't remember what happened. I wouldn't want to remember.
I think I was, like, they gave me too much of whatever they gave me. I was not, like, I was pretty much just, like, a wet noodle. So they ended up stopping and having Larry come back again. So that whole horrible thing ended up having a second time. And
Of them both
Yep.
having sex with you at
Yep.
the same time.
Yep. Because I guess they gave me too much of whatever the first time. So, you know, I still, like, I want to say it was my choice to drink, but I don't really think it was my choice to
Yeah.
drink. Because if I would have said no, I wouldn't have, like, I would have been drinking anyways. So I feel like, I'm like, okay, well, at least it was my choice to drink for any of it. So I say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I chose to drink. But I think that's just psychologically me feeling like I had some semblance.
Who wouldn't drink in that situation? Who wouldn't drink in a situation where your husband, who you just had their baby, and you're in a depressive episode, and he's like, if you don't do this, I will take away your kid because I'm military, and he has you have other men's dick in you in front of him. Like, who wouldn't drink in that situation? I would probably do a little more than drinking in that situation. I would probably want to remember as little as possible in this situation. Other than having to, for the details to have to report them
any
to
choice
police.
in any of
but
this. But in reality, I
emotionally-
don't think I would have had the choice not to drink. I'm sure he would have been like, no, you're fucking taking shots.
I would have chugged that fucking bottle
but
like
no,
it
that
was
last
medicine.
time, and this is something like when I talked to the forensic interviewers when I brought the case against him for our county, I don't really remember what happened at the very end of that last session with the two of them. I was gone. Like, I left my body. I was so broken that I don't really remember the next few weeks after that. I know that after that, around that time, that's when things finally started to stop with, like, the forced sexual stuff. But yeah, I just think psychologically my mind finally broke. And it was really, really horrible because the entire time that he was making me do these things, you know, my daughter wasn't, like, there in the room. She was there in the house. And I remember that...
In the same house, he should... The fact that he got away with this is child abuse. There's no, I'm sorry. I don't give a shit how kinky you are. You're gonna go and have other men fuck your wife in the same house that your toddler is in? You fucking psycho. That is child abuse. Fuck that. Like, if you didn't draw the line at any of the
very
other
last
stuff, you
time,
should certainly
know,
draw the
probably-
line
probably
there.
Broke me so much. Every fiber
Like,
in my-
you have strangers in your house fucking you around your child? Yeah, just say you don't give a shit about your child, this guy.
My body wanted to fight back. Every fiber in my body wanted to scream. But my daughter was asleep in the next room. And I was so terrified what he would do, not just to me, but to her. And I think that's, your brain can, your mind can only take so much sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was only 20. Just a 21-year-old baby, you know? I think,
And for those of you who are like, oh, 21's of age. Again, for those of you who are just joining, he groomed her from 16, 17.
I ended up turning 21 a little bit later, after all of the things. Again, it was just like, I called it the 3 months of hell.
I
'Cause it
hope
was
her
like
daughter doesn't follow in her
January
footsteps.
to March or February to April. And again, when nobody in the house is working and you're just, like, living the same day over and over and over again, like, stuff gets kind of, like, when exactly, what month was this? Because January was just like February was just like March. That, finally things calmed down, they stopped. And I could not tell you exactly why he decided to finally stop.
So for, like, those 3 months, it was just constant forced sexual acts.
Like, every day.
Yeah.
Whether it was having people or someone come over or going over to somebody, or just, like, having me do cam stuff or the pornathons. And I can remember at times, like, when I'd pretty much given up, knowing that, like, I wasn't going to be able to say no, I wasn't going to be able to go to bed. I would just, like, sit there and pretend to masturbate, like, literally on, like, the side of my mond. Like, the little hump, just like, yep.
Oh my god, and he fell for it?
I'm sure doing this with you.
Yeah.
Because like I had no other option. I wasn't allowed to stop. I wasn't allowed to go to bed. I wasn't allowed to say no.
And that's why it's not consensual. She had no option to stop. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to where she talks about the injuries she got.
Cavity and tunnel as well. In between, it's called your peridium. That's like that little space between the two holes that we all have. It's just a layer of tissue that kind of like separates those two tubes. So during all of the trauma, my rectum made a 90-degree little like pouch. So instead of going
Her husband
forward,
did
like
this.
Yeah.
because of all of the trauma. that
Invalid
happened.
marriage, but
So progressively having to go to the bathroom every day and use my rectum, that pocket got bigger and bigger and bigger. until I
literally
wasn't able
ripped
to
her ass open.
get my poop to come out. I was 23 years old and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So I had to start essentially pressing on that in between to cause like a little bit of
Pressure.
yeah, like structure, since my wall was broken, so the poop could come out. And I lived that way for like 2 or 3 years. Like, oh, this is normal. Like, I'm just constipated. And I'd had my gallbladder out. So I was like, oh, my tummy was really weird after having a gallbladder removed. Had some pretty weird cha-cha tummy for a little bit. So my body decided what it was doing. So I'm like, oh, this is normal. It's
She
probably
can't even shit in peace, guys.
my gallbladder surgery, until it was very, very apparent it was not normal. And that's where, between my body starting to kind of fall apart a little bit whilst I was doing therapy, it finally came to this beautiful cataclysm of I was well enough mentally and unwell enough physically to finally come to my doctor and be like, they're feds, they're actual federal.
So, yeah, she went through a lot of body trauma, too.
So like, I'm like, just please, honestly,
Things that I didn't even know were possible happened to this girl.
anything. Can we just get him for anything?
Well, also the fact that it started when you were so young, like you were a minor when everything started. So
We have the stature of limitations, though. So you can only, and this is stuff that I'm not super well versed in. It's what Biden wants to change. He wants to change the stature of
And
limitations.
she throws a little politics in there. Disclaimer, though, because I've listened to the whole thing, so I have all the context. She comes from a very Christian, conservative, extremely conservative town. And so her way, like, she's going to reject that because, guys, she just had her fucking asshole ripped open because her conservative dad let this guy groom his daughter. So in her perspective, she's like, if whichever politician is going to be the one to make it so I can catch this guy easier for what he did to me, I'm going to be for that one. And also, I don't know personally like her politics. I'm just going from what I've heard in the podcast. Also, I think it's fair that she's going to rebel, especially when her experience was so extensively, abusively bad. Like, that would put a bad taste in anyone's mouth, regardless if it were left or right. So I just want to throw that out there in case you guys turn your empathy off because, like, oh, she mentioned Biden and, like, one good thing he did, in her opinion. Just keep that in mind.
So that it doesn't matter when it happens, you can come forward at any time.
right.
So
So
if that
she
actually
wants that
does
law.
go through and pass, I could have actual federal grounds. Because in the state of Colorado, 17 is the age of consent. Not in fucking North Dakota.
Yeah.
Not Wyoming. So all of those things can even, and that's the thing, I may have been consensual at those moments, but legally,
Right.
a underage child, a minor, cannot consent to sexual activities with an adult because they're a minor.
Yeah.
So
So we're going to skip ahead to the part where they remove him. So basically,
You know.
to summarize it, to save you guys the extra like 30, 40 minutes. If you want the details, I really encourage you to go watch the video. It's called Trafficked by her husband. And in the video, she goes into, I don't know what timestamp it is for this part. I didn't write it down and I didn't see it in the comment. But there was a timestamp where he was actually... maybe it's over here. It's the important part.
he knew what they were doing. He knew because after me, when he finally, thank fucking God, like a year later, got removed by our local police department. So the thing with Colorado that's really cool, if the police come for domestic violence I forget what they call that, like just come to the house for a domestic violence incident. And I don't know if this is still holds true because it's been 10 years later now, but Colorado had like a battered women's law with after the third time of coming for a domestic violence altercation, the state would remove the offender instead.
So in her case, that means she had to go through that many times, like 3 times before he would even get removed. So it's not like she didn't go to the police. It's not like she didn't try to hold him accountable in the court of law. She did try. So that's another detail of what legitimizes her story over someone like Eliza, who doesn't really go into that at all. And there's an important part here. I'm sorry, I just don't know the timestamp, but someone in chat had mentioned this. So yes, there is a TikTok of her and her husband, the one who trafficked her, being very abusive toward her, and that's how she got on this podcast, was that because she needed evidence. So she didn't know what to do. She's trapped in a corner, and basically what he does is he is chasing her around the house, and her kid's there, she's holding her kid, and then he's trying to get in the door, and she's trying to keep him out, so she starts recording him. He gets really mad. She's really scared for her life, and he tries to take her phone away from her because he sees what she's doing and recording him for evidence. And then he accidentally makes it so, like, he's pulling her so like that, and the baby gets hit. So he makes her hit the baby, and during this whole thing, I believe, if it's the same incident. But yeah, he basically ends up actually abusing the child as well, and then blames her for it. And there's a recording, there's a TikTok of this. I don't have the TikTok. I have her TikTok page. I don't know if she like pinned the one. Oh man. In the end of July, doctor found high-grade cervical lesion, indication of cancer. Oh man, this girl cannot get a break. This is the girl being interviewed apparently. Yeah, it's her. I'm gonna double check. It's her TikTok. Trying to see if the TikTok is here where he was abusive to her. Because she doesn't have it pinned. I'm sure it has a lot of views on it. But yeah, if they're not gonna do, and I know guys, usually it's like in bad taste to post TikToks, right? But here's the thing. In her situation, he was not being held accountable due to his status of being a veteran, and he got away with abusing her and trafficking her. And she needed anything she could get to basically help her case. So if that meant bringing awareness through seeing it on TikTok and adding pressure, then, you know, that's what she did. So I think that this is a circumstance where I understand why she did that when he's not being held accountable for what he did to her and her daughter, which was pretty horrific if you rewind the stream. Apparently this is the guy. This is from her TikTok. So I don't doubt that she didn't get out of this scot-free, guys. Like, she's definitely gonna have some mental issues, to be honest with you. She's definitely gonna have some mental issues. You don't get out of that scot-free. I didn't get out of my abusive situation scot-free either. I just want to put that out there. So, speaking from experience. Yeah, I don't know where the video is of him doing the thing, because apparently it went viral. But anyway, so they remove him from the house, but he continues on to find a new victim and do the same thing all over again. The pattern repeats, the cycle continues. So that's pretty much how it ends. If you want more details on that, go watch it. It's on this channel, We're All Insane. I thought it was a very good educational watch. Regardless of what you personally think of this woman, she's been through hell, and she did a great job in bringing awareness to trafficking. Obviously, she could lie about things, we don't know, but she was pretty on track with her timeline. She was pretty detailed and specific. And also there is a consequence to lying. Yeah, you could get attention. That's why Eliza is a clout goblin, for example. She utilized victims to get attention. But also there is a consequence of like, oh, you're a lying whore. And that does happen too. So based on her telling the story and how she told it and how detailed she went, I'm inclined to believe she's telling the truth. But obviously we don't know because we weren't there. But this is a hell of a case from what it sounds like. And I just wanted to show you guys what an example of trafficking actually looked like, so you understand what the difference is between trafficking, what it means, because Eliza has muddied the waters and has blurred the definition of what trafficking means. And so a lot of people, she's doing a disservice. She's actually doing the opposite of bringing awareness. She's bringing unawareness in the most negative way possible. Like, so it's not just, oh, we're focusing on the negative, or like, oh, don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. No, she's bringing like the opposite of awareness. She's bringing awareness to people who are bullshitters and liars. That's what she did. She didn't bring awareness to trafficking victims after this incident. She did them a disservice and actually blurred the definition of what trafficking is. Now everyone's fucking confused. So I hope that this video and the highlights going through it help clarify what it means to be trafficked for some of you, to understand what the coercion aspect of it does mean and why Eliza is a bullshit artist. Cargo Pilot Guy 499 super chat. As a father of a new baby girl, I'll never understand how he could betray his baby like he did. Because it wasn't his first one. He did it multiple times. She is undoing awareness. It's called strategic ambiguity. I didn't know there was a word for that. Strategic ambiguity. That actually sounds like a tactic of hers. She's very vague all the time about everything. She's desensitizing. Yeah, she is. She's desensitizing everyone from the concept of trafficking. So some advocate she is, right? Let me make sure I'm caught up in super chats. Magic Squid $10 super chat. Thank you for streaming tonight, Brittany. Thank you for the super chat. I think I'm gonna end the stream soon because I still don't feel like 100%. Like I feel like okay, but I'm just like a little light sensitive and dizzy. But I felt like this was important to talk about. Opinionated News Guy $5 super chat. I went through the war on terror as a grunt too. It's no excuse to treat people like a sociopath screaming PTSD. I 100% am with you on that. Youngless $10. Thank you for your service, Brittany. No. Thank Eliza for her service. That she did not intend to give. She gave, you know what she did bring awareness to, guys? Eliza brought awareness, but not in the way that she intended. Eliza Bleu brought awareness to trafficking bullshit artists. That's what she did. And actually, all in all, that is something good, that we now know that that's a thing, that people will bullshit their way into clout by using victims and exploiting the system the victims need to help themselves, that she helped influence to be created, which is disgusting as a trafficking survivor advocate. So she brought awareness to that. Eliza Bleu, thank you for bringing awareness to bullshit artists that call themselves trafficking advocates. You may have blurred the waters and may have blurred the definition and muddied the waters for victims who actually are coerced, as this video we went through, and actually used the term correctly. Not that she didn't ever go through something, but in her case, she claimed her photo being used on a fake account to catfish men was her getting trafficked. So, you know, her definition of trafficking really blurred the definition, really muddied the waters for victims of trafficking who are trafficked through coercion and manipulation, extortion. But you know what, Eliza? You brought awareness to con artists. So thank you, Eliza Bleu, for bringing awareness to con artists. So all in all, hopefully that aspect at least helps the victims that you used. Hello, Kino Corner. Gummo dude 499 super chat. Why are you so angry? You want to find out? No, I don't think I'm always angry. I think you're just projecting. I think you think I'm angry because you want me to be angry. Like, I have resting cat face and I'm being discriminated against right now during Black History Month. Are you really gonna say I'm a black woman with attitude, that I'm always angry? Is that what you're trying to say? You're trying to profile me? Because I'm a black woman, I gotta always be angry? Just because I'm born on Abraham Lincoln's birthday in Black History Month, I gotta be an angry black woman? Trying to hold a sister down? Like, you did not just come to a black woman stream being like, why are you sassy? Oh, really? That's how you're gonna come here asking the dumbest fucking questions imaginable, huh? During Black History Month. Why is this black woman who's raised by a black woman sassy? Yeah, my mom raised me. That'll happen. I got her sassiness, believe it or not. I really don't like someone grifting off a victim's. The fact she's censoring critics is terrible. I know. And it needs to be covered even more. I'm thankful for the people and industries, or I'm thankful for the news outlets that have covered it. But I think that we can do better. Why are you so loud? Viral Shorts, $2 super chat. Are you black or mixed? I'm mixed. My mom was black and my dad was Ukrainian, German, Polish, in that order. Like from biggest to smallest. So my dad wasn't the one who raised me. His family didn't really raise me. My mom's side and my mom raised me. So I was raised by my black family. Not just my black mom, but also like her siblings that were kind of around. She had a lot of siblings and they had a different dad and they were all like black, like darker than her. So I really was raised by my black side. It's just that I have an accent because I spent time in Connecticut in my adolescent years, in terms of like from 10 to, I left at 18 to come back to Brooklyn. So that's why I don't sound like Eliza Bleu with her Ebonics in 2018. Matt Scrogan's $20 super chat. Sorry you're still locked out of your account. Thanks for exposing Eliza as a 304 who can't take accountability, that's trying to misrepresent her past. Thanks for drawing attention to real victims and explaining the difference. Well, thank you for supporting that. Trent Ronzer, $2 Canadian. She brought light to the importance of at SS hygiene. What's that? Is this, are we going to talk about wash your ass again? Britt can't stop yelling in theater. You know what's funny though? I actually have never been to like a black theater. Like I actually was raised in an impoverished part of Brooklyn from 1 through 10-ish years old, because there was a period where I was going back and forth from Connecticut because my mom was engaged to my stepdad, who also passed like a year into the marriage, or less than a year into the marriage. And I was in Brooklyn in a ghetto part, but I had never gone to like, because we couldn't afford going to the theater. Like we were very, very poor. We were on Section 8. Like I was in a homeless shelter at some points with my mom, like with the rats and everything. So it was rough, but you know, that's how Brooklyn is. It's basically like a third world country, especially back then. Yeah, I was in the ghetto. So like I grew up around like, and before someone gets on my case for being directionally retarded, first off, I'm a woman. Second off, it's not exactly my forte. Like I don't get on your case about not knowing how to fucking cook. I mean, I do, but it's only when you guys press me on that. And it's like, men are better cooks. Like, no, you're not. Just because there's more male chefs does not mean men are better cooks. It means that there's more professional chefs. You're not fucking professional. Like, go to the average guy, ask them to make scrambled eggs. They'll come out as a rubber ball. Anyway, what was I saying? So, oh yeah, so like, don't get on my case about directions. Like, first off, I'm a woman. Second off, we lived in the ghetto. So also my grandma lived in the ghetto, who I got left with a lot. So keep in mind, in Brooklyn, that's not safe to walk outside. So I didn't walk outside for my first time by myself until I was 18. Like, because in my first 10, 11 years of life in Brooklyn, it's not safe to walk by yourself. And my mom never left me to be walked with anyone, right? And my grandma was blind, never left her apartment. So my secondary caretaker is disabled. My cousin's there that she adopted. Like, he was related to me, but she like took him in because he was orphaned at a young age by her son and his mom, who died, right? So that's the environment, right? So I'm not able to leave because of that. It's not like, oh, my grandma can just walk outside and walk me around the neighborhood. She's disabled, she's blind. And then my mom was the only one who took me out on walks, and she's not going to leave me with my dad, who's fucking crazy and mentally ill. So that resulted in me never walking on my own until I was 18. She passed when I was 16. But I had an ex at the time, which I talked about earlier in stream, who I was with for 3.5 years. And I never left the house alone in that time period either, because I was living with him, because I was orphaned. So, and I paid rent for the room. So when I say this and I'm not getting the exact area right, or the exact like district right, that's why. It's because like I was never taught directions in New York, because I never was allowed to walk outside by myself without my mom. So when I came back to New York, I didn't know how to navigate directions. So I had to relearn. So that's why I don't know like, oh, this, and that off the top of my head in New York. Because I spent time in Connecticut and I didn't get to walk outside by myself for a long time. So in the part of Brooklyn I grew up in, I was around Church Ave. Like, my grandma was in Flatbush, like the bad part with like Popeyes, McDonald's, and now Checkers, okay? And then right next to like Botanical Garden. And Botanical Garden area is nice, but that's how Brooklyn is. Like, you take one turn, it's suddenly ghetto, and it's like insane. So literally across the street, it'll be like nice and luxurious library, and then literally you turn the corner and it's like a third world country. You have like hobos on the floor, rats everywhere, very ghetto. So Flatbush is that area. And then we lived at Church Ave. So like, here's Prospect Park. So my grandma's over here, right? And then I'm like over here, like Church Ave, where there's a lot of like a Haitian neighborhood. See, I still remember the street. It was East 17th Street. So I know that, but like I never got to go by myself outside. So like, because it was too dangerous. So I don't know a lot of directions in New York because of that, because we were in the hood. My mom was like very aware of her position, being a single parent, how dangerous that is in Brooklyn, in an impoverished part of Brooklyn. So she was very aware of that, which is why that's the case. So just for context, in case people think I'm like pulling Eliza Bleu and I'm like lying or something for clout, it's just because literally I didn't get to like leave my little fishbowl between there and there ever. When I stayed in New York a short time, it was Manhattan. Yeah, because Manhattan is like, oh, I'm a tourist. But Brooklyn has a lot of good things too. Brooklyn is like the real New York. Manhattan's like fake New York, and Brooklyn is real New York. It's like an actual representation of it, in my opinion. Favorite snack from the bodega? Okay, I like those. Okay, you know the little Star Crunches? That was my shit. I would play, what is it called? Sonic Heroes. And after begging my mom for a fucking PS2 for years and years and years, I finally got one. I only had a couple games because we were really poor. And I played Sonic Heroes, and I would eat the Star Crunches. I was a little fat piggy, okay? I fucking ate that little rat food in Brooklyn from the bodega. So, because we don't have grocery stores, right? And we kind of do, but it's like you have to carry it all back to the apartment a mile. It's a whole hassle, okay? You guys don't understand. We don't even have that luxury. So I'm eating like bodega food. I'm eating like Chinese food. I'm eating pizza. I'm eating Star Crunches. Oh, another one I liked was, and I can't eat these anymore, by the way, because I'm allergic to corn, so I can't even, like, eat it to, like, relive that. But, like, any sort of nostalgia or the little bit that there is. I also like those wafer ones where it's, like, the rectangle Nutella. It's not Nutella. It's, like, a rectangle, and it's the wafers. They had those at the bodega, and I like the honey buns. And... like, I was a sugar fiend back then. I loved grape soda. Yes, 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 bitch. Black History Month. Yes, I love me some grape drink when I was 6 years old. Get over it, haters. And I loved orange juice, like Fanta. What I fucking hated, though, that was at the bodega, I hated Sunny D. Like, that shit was always disgusting to me. That shit always burnt my mouth. I was like, Mom, stop buying this. Like, it burns my mouth. I hate it. Give me some of that grape shit. And yeah, Chinese food, my go-to for Chinese food, the only thing I would ever get was orange chicken. I never got anything else as a kid, like, by choice. Like, just because, like, everything else wasn't as good. I ate orange chicken, like, every single time. Pretty much never ordered anything different. So my whole childhood was sustained off of pizza, orange chicken, grape soda, grape drink, and orange soda, and bodega snacks. I like your Sublime sweatshirt. Thank you. I got it by accident last year, Lila. They sent me the wrong thing, but I kept it because it was comfy. Opinionated News Guy, $5 super chat. Star Crunch rule. Even us Midwestern people love those caramel rice sons of bitches. I found a corn-free replacement for it, though. That's the good news. I don't know what it was called, but it was at Kroger. But yeah, I love I wish I could eat orange chicken again, but most of it has, like, corn syrup. Russell Hall, $5 super chat. Good job flushing out another grifter. Sorry it's caused you so much trouble, but I have a feeling it's going to double back on her. Hey, it's Aquarius season. It's my season. You know, ruled by Saturn. Planet of karma. It's the passive. It comes with the occupation. Isabel Alive 2.0, 3 Canadian dollar super chat. I will love you forever. Forever, ever? Really? What if I say, like, some shit like I love Rick and Morty? Are you sure? See, like, are you sure about that? Are you sure you know what you're signing up for? You're gonna love me forever? Are you sure you know how long forever is? Push-ups 2345 $2 super chat. See article. You meet more perverts when you're poor. You meet more perverts when you're poor. That sounds interesting. Okay, I pulled it up. Spectral Citizen, $5. I was born in Brooklyn, but didn't remember much because we moved to Jersey when I was 5. I love grape drink too. Yeah, that's a similar type of situation. It's like you still have the vibe though. Like you may not know the specifics, but you still have the vibe. Yellow Flash to $20 super chat. Only $500 a night for Eliza knows. That's what got you locked out? God damn. Like, you can't even make a fucking joke about her. You literally can't even joke about her or the Wham Wham police is gonna wah-wah up your ass and lock you up. Elon really finna lock a black bitch up on this Black History Month as a fellow African, as a fellow February American. I cannot believe this shit. Brother Yellow Flash getting locked up. This is racist. This is some racism. Papa Towns, $5 super chat. She might be an angel. She might be a queen. She might be black, white, American, Indian, or Japanese. You've got Jewish. We love our Jewish princesses, don't we, chat? Don't we, my fellow Brooklynites? Russell Hall, $2 super chat. What the hell is grape? It's called purple. Purple drink. It was called grape soda when I was a kid. But yeah, like, it's so funny. Like, if I say Japs, YouTube thinks I'm using the slur, but I'm not. It's literally slang for Jewish American princess. It's a term. It's not a slur. It's a term that's used in New York to describe rich Jewish young women. Because they come from certain parts of the neighborhood and they act a certain way. It's not a slur, though. It's not like a slur for Japanese people or anything like that. Mahendra fan, $20 Australian. I'm gonna love you for another 4.5 years. Why 4.5? What takes 4.5 years? Thalia de Leon, $5 super chat. Just joined, but anyone talking about when she was Eliza Cut / engaged to MCR lead singer was messy apparently. Love your content, by the way. Thank you, Thalia. We didn't go over the My Chemical Romance thing this stream. We've definitely gone over it at some point in one of the Eliza streams. We were talking about the updates at the beginning of the stream already. We already went through the Eliza segment, and we brought up an example of actual trafficking to compare and contrast with. Viral Shorts, $5 super chat. You are the type of girl I can F with through my sarcasm. You think you're effing anyone with your sarcasm? Hilarious. Opinionated news guy at $5 super chat. I just called Eliza a liar on Twitter. Now we wait. Yeah, we got to like really sit here and test it, huh? Like to what extent can you not criticize Eliza Bleu on Twitter before you get banned? That's what I want to know. Deranged Lunatic, $2. Your dad was German and your mom was black. Does that make you German chocolate? Well, you're forgetting like my privilege points with being part Ukrainian. So Trent Ronzer, $2 Canadian. Oh yeah, you're at that one. John Stone, $10. Is it too much to ask for a dance? I'm a little teapot, please. I'm a little. Okay, I think I have read all of them. I'm pretty sure. I'm still scrolling through it. Anyone got a Trafficking Survivor t-shirt? Well, that would be the terminal grift to make merch off of Eliza. The terminal grift. It would be kind of ironic, though. That's like right on the line of satire. That's what satire is all about. It's about treading that line and not blurring it too much. Really just tightrope. Is it tightrope or tightrope? Tightrope walking across that line. But staying on the line and not falling. That's the tricky part. If you fall, then it's not satire anymore now, is it? Opinionated News Guy, $2 super chat. I've got plenty of gray in my beer. Oh, so they knew you were 44. I mean, naturally, younger women are going to be attracted to older men. So that part is naturally going to happen, but it's just that they don't really get the consequence of such a huge age gap. You get it because you're 44, but they don't get it. Doesn't necessarily mean that they were abused, but is it? Here's the thing, though. Coming from my point of view, I've never really been attracted to like older men like that, so to speak. I don't like men younger than me either. I've dated someone younger than me one time. It was a 2-year age difference. Would not recommend, but I have dated from 2 years younger to like 7 years. No, if we're counting dates like as in not a relationship, I went on a date with someone who was like 32 and I was 18. It was one date. And but in terms of relationship, I've been like 2 years younger in terms of like you're dating someone long term, and then up to 7 years older. And I've never gone like above that though. Like I don't feel attracted to like 40-year-old men even at my current age. I don't really like, I don't know. It's also cuz like I don't look at people like sex objects, but in general, like you can tell if when you look at someone if you find them attractive or not, of course. It doesn't mean like I look at them, I'm like I want to fuck them. Like that I don't get that. It's like I don't understand how can you want to have sex with someone but not have any sort of emotional connection with them? That doesn't really make sense to me. Like that actually, I don't think that has ever happened to me. Like where I look at someone and like I want to have sex with them with no context of any emotional aspects. That's really weird to me. I think that's like very animalistic. So in terms of like 44-year-olds, so I obviously, like, I don't look at people and be like, oh, I want to bang them randomly. Of course, with significant other, yeah, of course, duh. You're attracted to them. You have context. You've interacted. You're connected with them. Yeah, you look at them and yeah, that makes sense. But like a random person looking at them and getting horny, like, that's weird. That's like perverted. That's weird to me. And so that's how I feel as a woman anyway. But like looking at a 44-year-old guy, I can't say there's any instances I can recall. Like maybe like when I was like a teen and like certain individual celebrities, but I don't think there's been many cases of like in real life a guy's like 20 years older than me and I find him like attractive. Like even in the instance where I went out with the 32 something year old and I was 18, that wasn't because like I found him attractive physically. It was because like he was a troll online. It was more like, oh, he's an interesting person, so I'll go out on the date. It wasn't like a physical aspect as much. He was like, you know, kind of like average looking, objectively speaking. Like he was like 5'7", looked like a normal guy, you know, like he was just average in a lot of like physical aspects. Not that he was like horribly ugly, but like it wasn't like my like what I would have painted as like the Chad Thundercock, right? So yeah, I don't really get that. I don't really get the whole like being attracted to someone that's like 20 years older than you thing. Nor do I understand the reverse either. I certainly would not date someone that's like a teenager. But yeah, I've always been attracted to people who look more youthful, but like they'll be like 5, 6, 7 years older than me, but like look my age. That's what I'm personally attracted to. Like they look close to me in age. Viral shorts, $5 to be tried. The difference between emotional connection and sexual connection. I don't think I've ever had I just saw someone, there's just a sexual connection. Like, yeah, you can find someone attractive, but like, you don't even know them. You don't even know if there's some sort of cuck or freak and you're just like, yeah, I want to fuck them. Like, that's weird to me. That's strange. Like, you don't know them. Given how the world has gone, on average, the average person is kind of shit. So, like, that premise alone would make me, like I would wait a little bit. You stay young by staying connected to your inner child. You know what's a good way to do that? Playing my Game Boy SP. I should do that. That's another nostalgia thing for me. What? Spooky was meowing at something. He saw something. I don't know what he saw. He was looking at the ceiling. He's doing the cat thing. Not to get personal, but I legit didn't understand I was being groomed until I was the same age as the man who groomed me. There's no fucking way a high school student. There's no fucking way I would date a high school student. That's when, yeah. Most people who are of... People who have even a decent head on their shoulders know why you don't fuck around with high schoolers. And now that I've covered this, and I see people are like, why don't you cover this? Why don't you cover that? It's like, guys, I can only do one thing at a time. And especially when certain things are like not confirmed and there's not a lot on it, like, especially if I don't have much to do with certain situations or people, it's like, I'm supposed to, I can't just always speak on everything. Especially, like, it'd be different if it's like, oh, it's someone who's, like, this specific thing, and they're, like, working under me or something like that. Yeah, duh. Like, and they did something weird. Or, like, predatory suspect. Yeah, of course. But, like, people are, like, cover this person, cover that person. It's, like, it'll be people that aren't necessarily connected to me like that. And it's, like, I can only focus on one thing at a time right now. Especially when it's things that, like, aren't confirmed, there isn't that much evidence for, etc. So I'm trying to just focus on one thing at a time, like with Eliza stuff. That's why I've been focusing on it, is because the problem's not solved yet. And we have to solve this problem first before, like, oh, what suspects do we have for this and that? And like, oh, what's this and that? Like, based on nothing some of the time, based on like rumors some of the time. So that's, but you know, that is how Eliza got away with it so long, because we as content creators know that people make shit up about content creators all the time. We don't automatically bite into it and believe it. So that is how she got away with it. So that's something to note. But also at the same time, like, I'm not gonna like believe every little thing I see. Like, I have to use my discernment, and I can only do one thing at a time. So in case people are like, why do you keep covering Eliza? There's so many things to cover. It's like, I'm doing one thing at a time. This problem's not solved yet. My Twitter account's still locked. People are still being deplatformed off Twitter. Yellow Flash just got fucking deplatformed again. Okay, this is clearly not over. This is an ongoing thing. So, like, everyone chill the fuck out. I'm one woman. Brittany crushed all the boomer streams. She says she's attracted to. Haha, most of you are out. Well, that's the thing. You know what's funny? It's like, obviously, like, if my motive were to manipulate men into thinking they have a chance with me to get their money, obviously I would shut the fuck up about my preferences. Obviously, that's not part of my agenda. As opposed to a lot of women who purposely don't talk about things like that in order to give the illusion that maybe I'll fuck you one day. And a lot of women do that on purpose. So if my agenda were truly to do that, which I get accused of, then why wouldn't I shut the fuck up about my preference and be like, oh my god, yeah, I love micro penis men who are 5'1". Oh my god, love them. Short dick kings. Like, if I were pandering, that's what I would do. Like, I'm fully aware. I'm aware of the consequence. I'm gonna be honest and say what I feel like anyway. Roma Army intensifies. Yeah, that was so funny that she actually was sitting here like, I can't. Okay, I'm gonna go offline. Have a good night, everyone. Try not to conspire too much while I'm gone. See some in the chat right now. People making some assumptions. But I'll announce when I'm live on Locals, so follow me on there. And if you want to support the stream, you can do so on there or Patreon. And yeah, you guys aren't going to stop fucking conspiring. Anything you say will be used against you on the internet. So watch out. Good night, everyone. Also, I'm posting updates on Instagram, so follow me on all my socials that aren't locked. Bye-bye. And TikTok. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. Mahandra Fan 5 Australian dollar super chat. There's a 0.0007 chance that aliens conquer Earth and put you in a breeding pen with a viewer. Yeah, hopefully they would have the technology to not put someone through that amount of loss of dignity. You would think if they're alien civilization, they wouldn't have to breed humans with other random humans they don't want to fuck. Actually, that's kind of how breeders work. Isn't that kind of creepy when you think about it like that? 772 Hustla, 10 hours through Chet Brittler is one woman army I think they better recognize. Yeah, with a K. That's a brother right there. All right, guys. Good night.